tell me true. Is the sky cloudy or blue? Are your feet cold, must be snow? Are they hot, then sun's aglow? You don't meow just for fun. You predict rain or sun. No app or pro can match your grace. You're the forecast with the furry face. Damn, today I'll grab my coat and be on my way. If you're dry and warm, I'm set. You're my fuzzy weather vet. No Doppler radar, no TV fuss, just whiskers, paws, and lots of trust. Forget the news, I don't need that. I got a psychic purring cat. No umbrella, I'll take a bet. You're never wrong, my favorite pet. Who needs a pro in a weather blouse when there's a pussycat in the house? You don't meow just for fun. You predict rain or sun. No app or pro can match your grace. You're the forecast with the furry face. If your back is damp today, I'll grab my coat and be on my way. If you're dry and warm, I'm set. You're my fuzzy weather vet. No Doppler radar, no TV fuss, just whiskers, paws, and lots of trust. Forget the news, I don't need that. I got a psychic purring cat. No umbrella, I'll take a bet. You're never wrong, my favorite pet. Who needs a pro in a weather blouse when there's a pussycat in the house?
I love
Never
it.
give me enough time to get on Canva and Suno.
I bow down. This is the greatest thing. I needed that.
It wouldn't let me say. It made it into pussycat every time. I
I
don't
can't
understand why.
imagine why.
No, I thought it could be fun with. You don't need it if you have a puss in the house. Oh,
Oh, are we back or?
No questions for the witness.
All right, you are all set.
You know,
so
Do you have another witness?
I do.
Okay.
I have some other matters I'd like to introduce before that.
Sure.
I may.
Oh, God's sake.
stupid videos.
Interviews.
yeah, I love they just had to call him
I'd
back
like
to
to
set him up.
introduce clip 1 and play it for the jury.
Oh. Thank you so much, Sebastian Müller, for 20 gifted memberships to Mini Pussy, Ignoring My Vices, MLS Making Law Simple, Freckled Ginger, Reggie Hosley, Flamingo Chicky, maybe, Helene T. aus Austria, Sandra, Cookie Caronian aus Finland. Well, that's not German. Brigitte, Dark Beholder, who won a gift in the last giveaway, should be on its way. Kit, Best Gum Losing Detective, Amy T, Blue Eyes for Real, Bite and Bits, Nicole Hernandez, MK, Gail Taylor, Ashley Lauren. I think that's about it. Thank you so very much, Sebastian Müller. That's only 2 memberships went to Brandon. So now he can attack Jamie again when he doesn't get his membership chats. But thank you so very much. And now let's listen to this out of context, very stupid stuff.
I mean, I didn't think I hit him, but could I have clipped him? Could I have tapped him in the knee and incapacitated him? He didn't look mortally wounded as far as I could see, but could I have done something that knocked him out and in drunkenness and in the cold didn't come to again?
In this particular moment, you would drop him off at the party.
Yeah, would have had to.
Your Honor, I have keeper of record certificates I'd like to mark for identification. May I approach?
Yes. Thank you.
There's a series of them, Your Honor. Sure. And these are all for identification.
First thing is these videos will work, but this is the strongest evidence they have against Karen Reed, her own mistake of talking to the press.
Yes.
That's why you always shut up until you have a verdict. And it's just clips, yeah, but he's allowed to put them in as clips and totally out of context.
The text messages that I read with Mr. Tabor and Festival.
Want to put in text messages without anyone to put. You're here soon enough. You just missed one of his stupid videos.
I will visit evidence with that. No objection, Your Honor.
Because taken out of context, things look bad.
Your Honor, may I call the Commonwealth's next witness? Commonwealth calls Charles Ray.
Charles Ray, the famous brother of Sugar Ray. No, and they can't. They are impeaching her with her own words, even though she has said, "I'm not gonna take the stand." And but again, it's her own stupidity. It's her lawyers who didn't do their job well enough. Who's purring?
Thor, my weather cat.
Are we missing someone again? Why are you up there?
Ow.
What's happening?
Okay, can I point out that he only does this when I'm wearing black clothes?
Oh, he's racist.
If we could, we'll call a different witness.
Oh, so they didn't have Mr. Ray. Who's Ray? Was there no cross-examination of the phone guy? Trooper Guarino? No.
They'll probably call him on defense, I would assume.
Yeah.
You think that's what he's trying to do? You think he's trying to get Karen to take the stand with all these stupid clips?
Of course. He's trying to force her to not be able to have her Fifth Amendment. I love that that's going to be, if I have time to do stupid takes on Twitter, when Caffey Daffy said, well, she pled the Fifth. No, she didn't, you idiot. It's her right to shut up. Thank you, Deb.
Sir, I have to write notes. You are just going to have to deal.
Valhalla, did you see my new intro?
I did. It was awesome. I'm a big fan.
I
I'm a
have too
big
much
fan.
time on breaks.
How did
It
you?
was-
Did you eat?
Yeah.
I chucked my food in the microwave and then I came back, wrote the lyrics and made a quick
I'll see
video.
counsel at sidebar, please.
And while
Oh, see, that would have taken me a good hour in crying and cursing. Okay, sir.
no, I
no.
I tried a few times to make it take the cat out of the pussycat, but it wouldn't do it. And then I just put it in Suno, and while it was rendering, I ate my food. For those of you who are late, this was the new intro while we are at the sidebar.
Little cat, tell me true. Is the sky cloudy or blue? Are your feet cold? Must be snow. Are they hot? Then sun's aglow. You don't meow just for fun. You predict rain or sun. No app or pro can match your grace. You're the forecast with the furry face. If your back is damp today, I'll grab my coat and be on my way. If you're dry and warm, I'm set. You're my fuzzy weather vet. No Doppler radar, no TV fuss, just whiskers, paws, and lots of trust. Forget the news, I don't need that. I got a psychic purring cat. No umbrella, I'll take a bet. You're never wrong, my favorite pet. Who needs a pro in a weather blouse when there's a pussycat in the house? You don't meow just for fun, you predict rain or sun. No app or pro can match your grace. You're the forecast with the furry face. If your back is damp today, I'll grab my coat and be on my way. If you're dry and warm, I'm set. You're my fuzzy weather vet. No Doppler radar, no TV fuss, just whiskers, paws, and lots of trust. Forget the news, I don't need.
Jurors, thank you for your patience.
Charles Ray. They found him.
Yay! Was he sitting behind
Imagine
the
if his,
piano?
I was about to say if his name had been Ray Charles, it would have been much funnier.
You solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
All right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Thank- Your Honor. Sir, could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Charles Ray. I'm a lieutenant with the Canton Police, last name R-A-E.
How long have you worked for the Canton Police Department?
Approximately 25 years,
And when were you assigned lieutenant?
approximately 10 years ago.
I want to go back to January 29th, 2022. Do you remember that morning?
Yes,
Were you working that morning?
yes, I came in for the day shift.
When you first came in for the day shift, did you have any particular duties or responsibilities?
I would have been a patrol shift commander for the 7:45 a.m. to 3:45 p.m. Incoming shift.
Had you learned about an event that occurred at 34 Fairview Road?
I had.
Were you part of that response or group of officers that went to 34 Fairview Road?
No, I was not.
Your role that morning was unrelated to 34 Fairview Road?
Correct.
At some point, did you learn the name of the person who was at 34 Fairview Road that needed medical attention?
I did.
And what was that person's name?
Mr. John O'Keefe.
Did you
Well,
learn
Smacker.
that Mr.
Another
O'Keefe
one.
was brought to the hospital?
I did.
At
Yes, Brennan is really good at using the mic. I don't have the boost on.
some point, were you advised of his status?
At some point later in the day, yes.
While you were at the station after learning about Mr. O'Keefe,
You are muted.
did you make a decision to do something?
I did.
Was it an order from somebody or did you make a decision on your own?
I can't recall whether it was an order from somebody. I don't think it was an order, but it probably might have been at the suggestion of the former chief of police. Either that or it just developed organically. But one way or the other, we decided that the right thing to do would be to do a well-being check of the home.
Oh, he's the guy who takes the photograph in John O'Keefe's driveway of the totally busted tail light.
At One Meadows Ave, which is the decedent's residence.
Why were you doing a well-being check at Meadows Ave?
We at that time we were under the impression that there may be 2 unattended young children at the home.
When you decided to go to Meadows Ave, did you use a police vehicle?
Yes,
Do you remember which vehicle it was?
it was Canton 682, which is the supervisor's vehicle.
When you decided to go to Meadows for a well-being check, did you ask anybody to come with you?
Yes, myself and Sergeant Lehan.
Do you remember the weather that morning?
Yes,
Could you describe it for us?
There was a well forecasted snowstorm that had already began, and it was starting to pick up intensity at that point.
At this point, I'd move to admit the dash cam video from cruiser 682.
Okay,
No objection.
thank you.
Okay, Thor is trying to get into my soul.
Did
like
you
a-
travel from the police station
like
to
he's on
Meadows?
Hoth.
Yes,
Do you remember about how long that took you?
a few minutes.
Who was driving?
Sergeant Leahy was driving.
And where were you seated?
I was in the passenger seat.
Do you remember arriving at Meadows?
Yes.
With the court's permission, I would show a portion of cruiser 682.
Okay.
Look at all the snow that's not there.
Okay, Thor.
At
No, look at
8:20
this.
in the morning.
Thor.
This
no.
guy is riding when the wind has picked
how
up and
much?
he's doing 28 miles per hour, but it's impossible to drive outside because of the weather.
Thor is not doing his duty as our weather cat to explain if this is a blizzard or not. He is closing his eyes and not looking at the snow.
Damn it, Thor.
It's
It's-
white snow. You're white. You should know.
Again, how can they keep hammering on about this blizzard that covered up everything? Look at the roadsides. And this is 2
Very
hours
indifferent.
after the snowing picked up. But it's impossible to drive.
Look at how terrible that visibility is. You can barely see 2 blocks ahead of you.
Yeah, it's a whiteout.
Ridiculous.
Who is opening their bombs?
I got no bomb bombs.
Can't you hear some crumpling?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Look, it's Lolly's Nicorette lozenge, okay? He's trying to quit, damn it.
Could you stop, please, Ms. Gilman? I note that the time is 8:23:10. Do you remember the time when you got there?
I didn't make note of it mentally at that time, but I've since learned that. Yes.
Is this video that you have just watched consistent with your memory that morning?
Yes.
The cruiser cam is showing 2 vehicles in the driveway. When you arrived that morning, did you know whose vehicles they were?
At that time, no.
At that time, did you pay any particular attention to either of those vehicles?
No.
If I could show Exhibit 10, please.
Thank you, Vicky Hat.
Sir, does that appear to be a still photo from the video we just watched?
Yes.
And could I have Exhibit 11, please?
Oh, I'm picking it so we can see it, all of us.
When you arrived for the wellness check that morning, were you working as an investigator in any way?
No, I was not.
Did you happen to pay any particular attention to the right side of the back of that car that morning?
No, I did not.
And They want to tell you that this entire piece of the tail light is gone. Why is there a hard edge in the middle? Seems more like something is missing up here, kind of where the first pieces of glass was from. But I could be mistaken.
And is that photograph a close-up of the previous picture?
Yes.
Does it appear to be a still photo taken from the video on the cruiser that you were driving that morning or that you were in that morning?
Yes.
Okay, you can take that down, please. Thank you. After you arrived at Meadows, did you do anything?
When we arrived at Meadows, we walked up to one of the front doors and rang the doorbell, knocked on the door. Anywhere we could see through plain view, we were just trying to see if we could raise anybody, see if the children were at the house.
Did you find anybody?
We did not.
I actually don't think they will cross-examine him because he didn't. This is just a still photo. If he goes in and says it's missing, then they might cross-examine him.
I asked to show 159. It's a portion of an exhibit that's already been introduced.
Okay.
Yeah, that missing tail light is really throwing them off. They look so much at it. And just look how much snow has accumulated since last night. You can still see the tire track from when she drove out. And look at the back of John's car. Yeah, the snow has actually blown off. So there's less snow on John's car now.
Thank you. At this time, I'd move to introduce former 19.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Exhibit 72.
Thank you. The first video the second to last video you just saw, is that you and your partner arriving?
Correct.
In the last video, who's in the doorway?
I was on the right side of the frame and Sergeant Lehan was on the left side of the frame.
How long did you spend at the residence for the wellness check?
A few minutes. I don't think more than 5 minutes.
Thank you. I have no further questions for.
You're doing a wellness check, but isn't confused that there's a car with a cracked tail light.
All right, so you are all set until.
Yeah. No cross-examination needed. Because he actually didn't see anything.
My next witness would be Kevin O'Hara.
Kevin O'Hara. No, they didn't ask him any questions. There was no need to do it because it was just text messages. He didn't testify to anything. I think they are keeping him way away from testifying.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spell your last name for the record?
My name is Kevin O'Hara, O-H-A-R-A.
Where do you work?
I'm a lieutenant with the Massachusetts State Police,
How long have you worked for the Massachusetts State Police?
23 years.
When you began your career, what was your role with the Massachusetts State Police?
I was assigned as a trooper, a patrol trooper, working out of several barracks across the state.
Did you have to have any special education or training before you became an official Massachusetts State Police trooper?
Yes, I did. We went to a 6-month academy in New Braintree.
How long were you on patrol for?
I was on patrol for 17 years until I became a sergeant in 2018. So 16 years, became a sergeant, then a lieutenant.
In those 16 years, did you have any additional training after basic academy?
Yes, continued training throughout the years, additional training. Eventually, I wound up joining a search and rescue team, went to search and rescue training.
Tell us a little bit about search and rescue, what you did and what you do.
I'm the team commander for the State Police Special Emergency Response Team, which is known as CERT. I'm also the search and rescue coordinator for the state of Massachusetts. As a team, we conduct monthly trainings at least twice a month where our team will come together and train. We've been to trainings all across the country to hit national training standards.
Do you have any particular roles when you look for certain types of things?
So for CERT, we have 3 main mission types. We will do lost and missing person searches, we will do evidence searches, and then we also do crowd control or security at large-scale events, such as the Boston Marathon, the July 4th celebration. We get assigned to Gillette Stadium for all the events down there as well.
You mentioned that you work, part of your work is looking for missing persons.
Yes, sir.
Did you receive any specialized training, have any special experience looking for missing persons as far as training technique?
Yes, we get certifications through NASAR, which is a National Search and Rescue Organization, NUSAR, which is a New England-based search and rescue group. We will train several different types
Who,
of
if any, were you
trainings
looking
to,
for in this
improve our
case?
search techniques, including man tracking, probability of detection, critical separation, which is how we'll line up as we're searching certain areas. We've also gone, as I stated before, to national trainings where we've now really used a lot of statistical-based searching in our searches. We'll use live tracking maps now, so we've really advanced the way we search for missing persons.
When you're searching for a missing person, is there a routine or does it depend case by case?
We'll start off with a set normal way we'll deploy. More than likely, we'll start with a canine, searching high probability of areas, trying to get people out as quick as possible. And then eventually it may turn into a line
You
search.
weren't looking for people. None of this
You said that
matters.
you lead the CERT team?
That's correct, sir.
How many CERT teams are there with the Massachusetts State Police?
Just one.
How do you decide
they
what
all
different
as
cases
inept
or
as
situations
yours?
to get involved in? Is that your request?
It's not at our request. We'll receive requests either internally through other members of our department or externally from outside agencies.
So can you take us through very basically how the typical requests come to you?
Most of the time, I'll receive what I call a courtesy notification. I'll get a call from someone that I know in the department or a local police department asking, give me the particulars of the case and if we'd be available and what I think about our response. If we are available, if we're not already on another mission, we'll then start the approval request process, which I have to send up through my chain of command. I have to send that up to a captain, which then will go to a major who's in charge of the special operations. And then he may have the final say. It may even go higher to him to Lieutenant Colonel of Field Services. If the request is internal through another member of our department, it also has to go up their specific chain of command as well. Sometimes getting an external request sometimes goes faster because there's not that second chain of command to go through.
In 2022, how many full-time members were on the CERT team?
At that time, we had 55 members, which were, sir. We had 1 full-time member, 55 total members on the team.
So the members on the CERT team, did they engage in other roles with the state police at the same time they're a member of the CERT team?
Yes, it's an additional duty. They have a primary assignment either at a barracks or some other assignment throughout the state.
Remember, because the state didn't want to send the crime scene service section because it couldn't get approved. That's why they had to go with the CERT team or whatever stupid reason he gave, or because of the weather. But every time we see weather, there's no weather. There's only that afternoon, there's a shit ton of snow coming down. But it was gonna get, it ended at like 6 in the evening. They could have waited an hour and they would have been perfectly fine. But it's this, we couldn't get someone to sign off of it. It's such a ridiculous statement, especially it's a dead cop.
If you decided on accepting a mission or you were assigned a mission, who determines how many people from the CERT team would attend?
That would be determined by myself and the captain from Special Operations.
You mentioned back in 2022, there was 1 full-time member and 55 part-time members of the CERT team.
Yes, 55 total, correct, sir.
As we stand today, how many full-time members of the CERT team?
Currently, we're 69. We did have 71. We've had a few members leave the team recently.
Are those full-time or part-time members?
I'm sorry, that's full total members. We have currently 5 full-time members. So we increased our on both ends.
Are members of the CERT team who work for the Massachusetts State Police drawn from different geographical locations around the state?
That's correct. We try to split east-west the best we can geographically, just so we have as quick a response time as possible. We'll break it down further into the northeast part of the state, the southeast, central, west, but main breakdown for us is east-west, basically using 495 as our boundary.
If the CERT team's assigned a mission and there are members that have chosen to participate, how often would you go to that scene or involve yourself in that particular event?
When I was the only full-time member, probably 99% of the missions I would go to. Now we have a few other supervisors on the team. I have a full-time executive officer who's also a lieutenant, but my role hasn't changed too much, still 90 to 95% of the missions.
I want you to take us back to January 29, 2022. Were you contacted or was a request made for you to consider and accept the mission?
Yes, I received a call from Lieutenant Tully.
After receiving the call, what was your process?
Again, that was what I would classify as a courtesy notification to see if we were available, if he thought we could get a response on that date. I told him we would be able to respond. I asked him if he had started the approval, the request for approval up his chain of command, which he hadn't at that time. He stated he would start on that, and then I contacted my captain after getting off the phone with him to start the approval process through my chain of command.
Do you remember generally about what time this process began?
He called me at 2:32 p.m.
At some point, was the task or the mission assigned?
So I told Lieutenant Tully that, we had received a snow that day. I told him most of the members, including myself, may not have shoveled out their driveway. I told him at best case scenario would be an hour plus response time.
Why? How long are your driveway? I can understand if it's Valhalla. You live far away, but if the expert called me and said, "Hey, I might be an hour late. I didn't shovel my driveway," I would say, "Bro, you have 2 steps on your driveway, and then you are into the road." Again, I know it's snowing more in the afternoon, but why would you shovel snow for 45 minutes to an hour?
More importantly, why would you get that call? Why would you reach out before the chain of command and figure out how long you got?
Yeah. That's and again, do you remember when we were in the green clothes that well, I got mine from the Queen, you got yours from the President. We had these standby things, so we prepped for it. So if we were going somewhere, we didn't say, "Oh, I know I was on call, but give me about an hour because my canteen hasn't been full and my rifle, I got it somewhere. I know I got it. I've seen it." If you're on standby, you will clean constantly because you know the call can come. It's such a ridiculous. If this is the best you can get in Massachusetts, I would write the governor and say, "You owe me taxes."
Every one of these individuals on the CERT team should have like a go bag, essentially, ready to go at any given time. They should be able to grab, put their boots on, grab the bag with all the required gear, and jump in their vehicles and go.
My brother works for Lego. He had some duty where on Saturdays where he might be called, and because he had to be on standby, he could never be more than 15 minutes away from his computer. Because
So you're telling me that Lego employees are quicker and
Than
more
the
prepared than the Massachusetts State CERT team?
Yeah, my brother had, and it was every third Saturday. He knew I'm gonna sit at home doing something because I cannot leave my house and be more than 15 minutes away. And you factor that into your life. This is a guy who's been doing this for 30 years, but he didn't prep his driveway in case, especially in a snowstorm. He's looking for missing persons. We have a lot of trouble with people with dementia who goes missing, especially in wintertime, because let me tell you something, brother. People with dementia kind of knows it's done, so they'll just walk away. So kind of to just pass away. Kind of like animals will do, they'll leave the herd and just die. It's something people with dementia do as well. But especially in the wintertime, we have more people escaping and missing from the caretaker homes than you have in the summer, because this is the prime time of year for elderly people to die.
A blizzard is one of those weather events where people tend to get lost or or missing, right? They wander off. You can't find them. You need to find them quickly. I would think that this weather event, that CERT should have been much better prepared for.
Yeah, and again, we're talking on on-duty officers,
full-time on duty, not a part-time, not an on-call. This lieutenant is a full-time. He just told you he goes on 99% of missions the first little while, and at 90 to 95% of missions now. He should have been ready. His men should have been ready. That's a failure of leadership.
Yeah, this is because the Massachusetts State Police don't give a fuck about rules. How the hell is Lego more prepared than the Popo? Because Lego has to make money. These people just take your money.
They just get to
depending on how long it would take people to shovel out their driveway. So at 2:53, I contacted one of the West team members, a sergeant from the West team, to have him send out an alert to our full team just to build an availability list to see who was available. So at 2:53, that got sent out to the entire team.
At some point, were you able to acquire or compile a team?
Yes, Sergeant Simpson was able to put that list together.
And what time did you start to begin your way towards Fairview Road?
At 3:48, we sent out an alert for the activation of our team, including notifying the team which members would actually be responding. I had just finished shoveling my driveway. By the time I changed into my uniform, got all my equipment together, I left my house at 4:13 p.m.
An hour and 15 minutes, roughly.
When you left your house, were you in a assigned cruiser or a personal vehicle?
Assigned cruiser, sir.
Is there tracking of assigned cruisers?
Yes, there is.
Could you share with us how that works?
So each cruiser has a automated vehicle locator or GPS system. It tracks everywhere you go, marking every time you stop.
And did the vehicle you were driving have that system?
It was like 2 feet of snow, but that was in the afternoon.
22 and a half or something.
Yeah,
22 and a half inches, something like that.
When John O'Keefe was found, it was 3.9. Yeah, 3.989, something like that.
Cumulative.
Before you left to head towards Fairview at 4:13 p.m., had you already defined what the mission was going to be?
Yes, I knew we'd be conducting an evidence search.
Did you have any idea of how you were going to do that?
Yes, I spoke to Lieutenant Tully just to get an idea of the area we'd be searching. I determined how many members we would need to respond to that search, which at that time I figured we would need 8 members to respond. Normally, as the team leader, I'll function more of an incident command role behind the team, documenting some of our efforts. So we dispatched 8 members to the scene. Unfortunately, due to the snow, one of my members was not able to respond. So we only had 7 members officially arrive on scene, including myself, which changed the dynamics a little bit of our search, but nothing major.
How did it change the dynamics of your search?
Well, like I stated, normally I would stay behind the line of searchers, documenting what they would do, more of as a command role. But because we were 1 member short, I wound up participating in the search more hands-on than maybe normal.
Did you ultimately actively participate in the search firsthand?
Yes, I did, sir.
Tell us about when you first arrive at 34 Fairview and you get out of your cruiser. What's the weather like at that point?
Still snowing.
What's the temperature like?
Very cold.
Visibility?
It was windy, but no real issues for us to see as we were working.
Was there a particular area you were looking at?
Yes, once I spoke to Lieutenant Tully, we wanted focusing on a specific area to search.
What time did you arrive at 34 Fairview?
4:56 p.m.
Did any of your team arrive before you?
Just prior to my arrival, one member arrived at 4:54 p.m.
And do you remember who that was?
It was Trooper Jason Boussolet.
Were there other members that arrived after you?
Yes, there were.
Did you wait until the entire team was there before you began?
No, we did not.
The other members that arrived, do you remember who they were?
Yes, I do, sir.
Do you happen to remember when they arrived?
Yes, I do, sir.
Could you share that with us?
Trooper Blake Bearden arrived at 5:21 p.m. Sergeant Charles Luis arrived at 5:24 p.m. Sergeant Michael O'Brien arrived at 5:24 p.m. Trooper Scott Viscardi arrived at 5:34 p.m. and Sergeant Anthony Carrier arrived at 5:41 p.m.
When you first arrived at Fairview and you looked at the scene, did you have any personal knowledge where any person had been in that area?
No, I did not.
Did you learn generally that a man was found in that area?
Yes, I did.
Did you have any photographs or precise location of exactly where that person had been found?
No, we did not.
Did you
This is the leader of the search team.
have a general area that you were directed to?
Yes, sir.
Any landmarks you can share with us in the general area where you were going to be focused on?
There was a flagpole in front of the residence. There was also a fire hydrant in front of the residence.
Who made the determination of the scope of the area that you would search?
I made the final markings of the distance we wanted to search, but we were guided by Lieutenant Tully's information he was able to provide for me.
How did you decide the depth and the broadness of the area you were going to search?
He informed me that there was a vehicle involved in the incident. He told me where that vehicle had been parked. So we wanted to make sure we started prior to where that vehicle was parked, which was almost adjacent to the front door of the house. If you were to look at the house we were at 34 Fairview Road, we don't say there was two front doors, a main front door and then a secondary front door at, closer to the garage, whether that's a mudroom or a den. So he'd say that the vehicle was parked almost directly across from the main front door, which again, looking at the house, that's on the left front door. So we marked off that as our starting location and we wanted to search down to the fire hydrant.
Were you looking randomly or was there any specific items you may have been looking for?
No, we were instructed that it was believed that the vehicle may have had a broken taillight. So we were looking for taillight pieces. We also were informed the victim in this incident was missing his shoe. So we're going to be looking for his sneaker as well.
What tools did you and your team bring to begin the search?
We brought shovels. We also brought push broom. I brought a couple of garden rakes. And we also were all equipped with headlamps, hiking lamps that you would wear.
Were the headlamps the only lighting you had for the search?
Once we began the search, we wound up turning a few of the cruisers around just to put some extra headlights on the scene.
Were the cruisers parked so they were facing the yard?
They were parked on the street, just covering the streets. They're not angled towards the yard at all.
I want to ask you some questions about the tools you brought. You said you had shovels, some garden rakes, and brooms.
Yes, sir.
What was the purpose of the brooms?
Just to help us sift through the snow very carefully. We want to be slow and methodical as we went through the area.
Why didn't you use an air blower? That is the most gentle way you can do it, right?
How about the shovels? Were you concerned that if you used the shovel, you could hit an item and break it?
Yes, but we went as slow as we could, layer by layer, as we moved down throughout the snow.
When you use shovels, were you digging like you would dig vegetables in a garden?
No, sir.
Could you explain a little bit about the process before we get into the actual search of how you as a team would look through snow? Would you just pick it up and turn it over, or was there a process in place?
No, eventually we wound up going again. Our searches, we'll call it a grid search, but it's a line search where we're all lined up. Again, talking about critical spacing. If we're searching for a particular item on a search.
No, this group didn't get a leaf blower. This is the search team that searches at around 6 p.m. These are the people who find the red tail light buried under 22 inches of snow that the group searching at in the morning under 3 inches of snow couldn't find with a leaf blower. So these guys are way better than the team that did it in the morning.
May use a replica item to say, okay, how far can each member be away from each other? Because this was such a small search area, our members lined up almost shoulder to shoulder. Once we were on a line, we would slowly move forward, each member taking out snow, sifting, small layers, sifting it out at their own feet with a right flank along the curb in front of the house. That snow would eventually get moved out to the street where I was standing. I was the left flank on our line. I would then re-go through that snow, make sure we didn't miss any items or by accident carry an item that we were looking for over towards the middle of the street. Once I was satisfied there wasn't anything there, I would take that snow and throw it across to the other side of the street.
Before you began the search, did you have a chance to look around at the surroundings, including the street, the berm separating the street from the yard, and the area you're going to look at?
Yes, I did, sir.
Did you
This is O'Hara from the CERT team.
see any evidence that there had been any plowing before you arrived?
Yes, the plow had come through the area. The plow had not gone curb to curb, so we had a good 3 to 4 foot embankment coming off each curb. So at that embankment where the snow had come to, there was higher levels of snow before it dropped down to the normal snow depth that the rest of the area had received.
Could you describe a little more simply what you mean that the plow didn't go curb to curb?
So again, the plow had probably only done enough distance for maybe 2 vehicles to safely pass each other, not enough to go all the way to the curb on each side of the street. As we wound up parking, the responding members, as they wound up parking in the snow close to the curb, and at the end of the night, several of the cruisers were stuck. We had to push them out.
When you looked at the snow that appeared to have been pushed by the plow, did that snow that had been displaced reach the berm, the separation between the street and the yard?
No, there was 3 to 4 feet between the edge from where the plow was to where the curbing in front of the house was located, sir.
The area where you searched or where you were pointed to where Mr. O'Keefe was in that general area, did it look like any snow from any plow had reached that area?
No, it did not.
When you began the searching, do you know what time it was that you actually began searching?
We moved my cruiser and Trooper Boussolet's cruiser at 5:20. We had started gridding off where we wanted to search, but at 5:20, that's when we moved our cruisers to put the headlights on. That's right. Trooper Bearden and the 2 sergeants arrived quickly after on scene. So by 5:24, we started. All 5 of us were lined up shoveling. When the 2
At 5:24 is when they started shoveling. Another one bites the dust. I'm not 100% sure of the timeline, but I believe they testified in the first trial that they started at 5:40, 5:45, because there was that little thing about, he testified in the first trial that the car wasn't at the sally port when he started, and then they found out, oh, it was actually in the sally port, because I believe it arrived at actually around that time, the car arrived at the sally port. So now they took 15, 20 minutes off another timeline. Yeah, they just chopped off another. Why are they always? All of this is, again, remember Proctor in his message about when he got the car. He wrote an hour and 20 minutes wrong and said, well, it was, I hit the wrong buttons on the keyboard. Well, that wouldn't do that. I can get that you make a 4 to a 5 or a 5 to a 4, but you wouldn't change the entire time. Proctor arrived at 5:36. Yeah, and they claimed at the first trial it was before, but I believe it's 5:40, 5:41, 5:42. I think it's 5:40. 5:40. I want to say 5:41. If anyone knows how to make a beagle walk, come holler. We normally just gave it something to eat when we had beagles. I had a text today saying Royal Mail has my parcel and it will be delivered very soon. I am happy. Tell me when it arrives.
other members arrived on scene, they just joined in on the line to help us move.
From when you first arrived at 4:56 p.m. to when you began the search at 5:20 p.m., did you see anybody enter the area that you were going to search other than you or a CERT team member?
No, they did not.
Were there other people in the area outside the scene of the grid?
Thank you, Jason JJJ. These dumb cops don't realize if they don't put the taillight pieces together and run the number on the plastic, they'd find it doesn't match the Lexus. I don't know if that, but yeah. I just know that this story doesn't add up. Again, why is every timeline being shifted? And remember, the last time there were 3 people he didn't know at the scene when they started. 3 people. Yeah, that's why you have a beagle. They have nice fluffy ears. They'll always get infected, but they are lovable, and they'll eat everything.
You were going to search, other than you and members of your CERT team?
Lieutenant Tully arrived on scene.
Was there anybody with Lieutenant Tully?
At one point, he had several other people with him. Maybe, I believe, 5 throughout our search. Maybe 5 different people, including him, were on scene.
Were those people part of state police?
At least 1, maybe 2. Unfortunately, I don't recognize all 2,500 members in our department, but there were probably about 5 total people on scene, sir.
Was there somebody who was picking up any evidence that you may find and putting it in bags and preserving it?
After we located evidence.
Yeah, there would probably be some kind of barcode inside a tail light. I don't know how it works and where it would be on a Lexus, but could be interesting.
It was documented on scene by the detectives.
So you yourself were not documenting?
No, and again, that's maybe a little change in the dynamics. If I had been more in an instant commander role, I probably would have documented time, location, again, for our internal records. The primary record will always be at the hands of the detectives. But because I was actively searching, the detectives handled all documentation.
Did you see somebody from the state police putting evidence in bags after it was pointed out to you?
Yes, sir, they did.
When you began the search, what part of the street or yard did you begin with?
We started where we were informed the vehicle was parked, which again was by, almost directly across from the front door of the house. And we began working south towards Chapman Street.
During the process of the search, if somebody were to find a piece of evidence, what was the process? What would happen?
He would notify myself and Lieutenant Tully, and we would stop our operation until that was documented by the detectives on scene and collected.
Do you know what time the first piece of evidence was found?
I believe it was 5:45, sir.
Do you remember what the first piece or item that you or the search team found was?
It was a piece of taillight.
Farrell, you don't say that to a married man. If you want D-pics in you find a non-married man.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm showing you 2 photographs to recognize what is in there. First one,
Yes, sir.
what is that?
It is a piece of clear lens from taillight.
And the second photograph,
It's the same lens, just a little enhanced closer.
close up.
Yes, sir.
I will introduce these 2 photographs to evidence.
All right, so one is a close-up of the other.
It is.
So Madam Court Reporter will be the next plus A.
73 and 73A.
Well, I think Cross has been good on some of them. I think Cross was better this time with Jen. Wednesday was not. Friday was really good. The friendless firefighter, I don't think landed. I'm not sure if you got out of the weatherman what you needed to say that there was no snow.
Let's briefly see those photographs.
With the court's permission, could I show the exhibits?
Yes.
We see exhibit number 129, please.
129. I actually think this is why he takes it out of order, so you can't pick up all the inconsistencies. That's why the defense really have to hammer it home with all these discrepancies in timelines.
Doesn't have it. All right, I'll move on at this point. And that was at 5:45?
Yes, sir.
At 5:50, do you know if another item was found?
I don't know the specific times. I know the first piece was 5:45, but again, I didn't handle the documentation, and I have not seen the evidence log.
Inevitably, did you or your team find an item of clothing?
We found the sneaker, yes, sir.
A sneaker?
But again, you have to remember, we know all of their lies. The jury learned that Carrie lied, learned that Jen lied. I don't think they got enough out of the friendless firefighter. They know the entire story about Snow is a lie now, if they picked it up, but there was too much throwing cats around and maybe a mongoose somewhere. I didn't catch all of his analogies, but the jury hears this for the first time, and they will hear the cross where they will ask, at an earlier trial, you testified, you started searching at 5:41. So you now say you found the taillight piece in 1 minute. Also, remember, they ended the search really early. They only searched the front yard for like 40 minutes or something like that. And that seemed really, really fishy that they wouldn't search all of it.
Yes, sir.
Can you describe where the sneaker was found?
The sneaker was flushed up against the curb and it was inverted upside down.
I missed most of the day, so the billing this morning, who's been on since then? Well, you had the Gallagher, then you had the weatherman, and then you had Guarino reading some text.
And you also had Lieutenant O'Hara, which really didn't offer anything.
No, he's on stage right now.
Oh, Ray Charles. Ray Charles, I mean.
Yeah, you had Ray Charles who just came in and said, yeah, I did a wellness check. Yes, this is a picture from my dash cam. I didn't see anything.
Charles Ray is his name. I apologize.
There was snow on and inside the sneaker.
Hey, if they had Ray Charles as the lead detective, it would make more sense.
He would have found more evidence.
May I approach it?
Yes.
I love that Brennan didn't have his evidence ready, so they couldn't pull it up.
Start showing you 3 photographs. You recognize the first one?
Yes, sir. That's a photograph of the sneaker we recovered.
And where's it located in reference to the berm?
It's directly up against the curb.
Can you show, take a look at the second photograph, please? What do you see?
It's a close-up picture of the same sneaker we located.
And third photograph.
Again, just a close-up, different angle photo of the sneaker we located.
Thank you. All right, remove these 3 photos into evidence, please.
How,
Right,
as
order 74.
Lieutenant, who the hell is it? Tolley? Who did the Gallagher? Lieutenant Gallagher said that they searched all the way from the curb to where they believed John to be laying. This guy says that he found the shoe flush against the curb. Now, Lieutenant Gallagher made sure to clarify that he did not go all the way off the curb, but there wasn't enough snow to hide a shoe on the curb. You should have been able to find the shoe, I think.
No, it's totally impossible. And you wouldn't find a black cap under, let's be generous, 4 inches of snow.
And that is being generous.
Hey, have you ever watched that stupid movie where people walk a lot?
Which one?
Everyone's favorite trilogy, which is really a bad movie, but everyone just think they have to love it. They have these cloaks that they can put over them, and then they can hide in rubble. Have we considered that this might be a Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter scenario, where the shoe and the hat,
cloak,
they had invisibility cloaks on? I'm not saying that's happened, but I'm just saying Harry Potter ain't got nothing on Canton.
I didn't think about that.
74A and 74B so far. Thank you.
I didn't think about that.
But these are the things I hope
Yes.
that they will pick up on. I think they should have shown that shoe to the previous victims. That you didn't see this shoe? Are you blind legally?
Could we get more of a close-up, Ms. Gill?
Are you blinder than Ray Charles?
See, finally,
Sir,
it's
can you describe
snowing.
what you're seeing here?
That's the sneaker we located up against the curb. You can see the snow in the background, and that's the flagpole in front of the house. You can see it's still snowing at this time.
No one could see this when there was 4 inches of snow. Tell me why are you retarded? Tell me why.
Could we see 121, please? And sir, can you describe again what that is?
Just a close-up photo of the sneaker we located up against the curb.
Is that curb the black area to the right?
Correct, sir.
How high is that curb?
I'm not sure, sir. Several inches.
122, please.
About 6 inches.
You described a photograph with a sneaker with snow in it. Is that photograph?
Yes, it is, sir.
Okay, thank you. You can take that down. That night, do you recall if there was any other pieces of taillight recovered?
I believe in total we located maybe 6 or 7 pieces of taillight.
What?
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Didn't they find 3 pieces of tail light? And this was one of the pieces that multiplied in the envelope?
That could be.
Sir, I'm handing you 3 photographs.
Thank you.
Do you recognize the first photograph?
Yes, I do, sir.
And what's in that photograph?
It's a piece of red taillight that we located.
Could you look at the second photograph, please?
Yes, sir.
What do you see there?
It's the same piece of taillight that we recovered, just a close-up version. You can see the molding of an overturned shovel. That piece of taillight actually came up as one of our team members was shoveling. When he overturned his shovel, the piece of taillight was there, and you can see the actual molding from his shovel.
And the third photograph?
That is another piece of taillight that we located at ground level.
A different piece?
Yes, sir.
Let's stick with photographs 1 and 2. Photographs 1 and 2 is close up and a further view of a piece of taillight. Are those fair and accurate depictions? Is that piece appeared that night?
Yes, they are.
The evil witches and wizard ghost from Salem did it. Case solved. Good job, Baker. Thank you, Big Dog.
Good job, Baker.
I am the smartest person in this chair.
Yes, sir.
There's 2 photographs of evidence.
Thank you. One's a close-up, right?
Yeah, Your Honor.
75A.
So when these items were found, did you examine or study the depth of those items when they were found?
I did not, sir. Gave him a glance when our team members told us we found something, and then Lieutenant Tully took over documentation. I returned to my place, on our line.
Do you know if any of the items were touching the ground or were they on snow?
A couple of the pieces were found at ground level, touching the asphalt.
And you said there was another item found that we just talked about? A separate piece of taillight?
Yes, that photo you showed me was a separate piece of the taillight we located, sir.
May I approach?
Yes.
Yeah, in 18 inches less snow.
Photographs, could you look at the first photograph?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What do you see?
Piece of taillight at ground level.
It's almost like those things weren't there yet.
It's a close-up enhanced view of that piece.
Someone
piece of
could
taillight.
get that theory and maybe make a lot of people online believe that.
Taillight appeared that night?
Yes, it is, sir.
I'll move these 2 into evidence, 1 photograph and a second will be closer up view.
Okay.
76 and 76A.
This is roughly at 5 p.m. in the afternoon.
They started digging at 5:20, he said.
5:24. Last time he started digging at
While you were
5:40,
conducting the
1:42.
search, did anybody but your team, Trooper Tully, the person who's documenting the evidence, did you see any other people who were not law enforcement in the area?
At some point during our search, the media arrived on scene, began filming us or taking photos.
Was there anybody from your department or a different department that was managing the crowd?
No, there were members with Lieutenant Tully that I believe were not state police members, but I wouldn't know how to characterize what their job description was, sir.
At any time, did anybody enter that area or scene, the grid that you and your members were working on, other than your group and Trooper Tully and the people with him?
No, correct. Once we marked off our area, no one came forward of our line. That whole search area was fresh, undisturbed snow as we moved through the area, and no one moved past our line. Even when Lieutenant Tully and the member who works in his unit came to collect the evidence, they didn't move past the point we had searched up to at that time.
Why were you so careful about anybody coming onto your grid?
We don't want to disturb our scene, but we also don't want to move forward unless we're all moving together, acting in unison.
Given you had brushes and rakes and shovels,
Yeah.
Did you get through every piece of that area?
We didn't go all the way to where I had marked off originally, because after we'd found everything that was collected, we had gone approximately 8 to 10 feet without finding any other evidence. Lieutenant Tully and I had a discussion. I think we determined we'd found everything we were going to find that evening.
So we can determine that every single piece of evidence that Proctor, Bukaki, and not Meatball Morrissey, the other one, Berkovich, found later must have been more than 8 or 10 feet away from the body, or what should we determine by that?
That seems like that makes sense.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a reasonable infraction to make?
And we decided to suspend the search.
Was it a search that took up the whole front yard and street of that area?
Our focus was on the street. We really didn't touch the front yard at all. We started to go over the curb at one point to see if we could search the grass area, but we could not properly definitively say we were searching it well. As we started to move the snow, we couldn't really differentiate down to the grass level.
How hard was the ground?
It was cold, frozen,
The ground was frozen?
sir.
Did you test it? How
He
did you
just said-
determine the ground
He
was
just
frozen?
said that he didn't go to the to the grass. He wasn't in the yard. He was on the street. The ground was frozen, though. We were completely in the street, and we got to the curb, but we didn't go any further. The ground was
Yeah.
frozen.
I was
couldn't do it.
testing this black piece of ground they had between the 2 yards,
It was
completely
hard as a
solid.
rock. Completely
move it.
solid. It was
And so
breaking
not being
shovels.
able to search the entire yard, was there a plan at that point? Did you just end your mission?
So when we suspended our search, we'll always do a full team debrief, and we'll debrief with the person who requests our search. And at the end of our search, we'll come up with what we call our probability of detection. We'll give a baseline determination of what I think, our percentage-wise, whether we would have found what we were looking for. We'll provide that. I did provide that to Lieutenant Tully. Told him there was a good chance we did not locate everything that evening, and we offered to return at a later date or time at his request.
When you were looking generally for pieces of taillight in the sneaker, were you informed, did you have any idea how much taillight would be in that area?
I did not know, sir.
Was there any way for you to, at that point, identify exactly what you were looking for?
No, we didn't have a photo of the taillight. I was never shown anything, so I wasn't sure how much we were actually looking for.
That's good, Joe.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I think he actually asked if he could see a picture of the tail light, and he said that he asked Tully for a picture of the tail light to see how much they were looking for in the first trial, but I'm not sure.
I'll withdraw that. What time did you end the search?
Approximately 6:15, I believe. I was the last one to leave, which was 6:23 p.m. when I left.
So they searched less than
So
2
how
hours.
long was the entire search?
It was about 55 minutes. We started again around 5:20, ending around 6:15, sir.
Do you know if any other colleagues or members went back at a later date?
I've been informed that they did, yes, but not from my team, but other members of our department.
I'll allow it, just move on.
That's hearsay.
Did your team go back?
We did not, sir, no.
Why?
I have no further questions.
Come on, kill him. Get some heavy punches in there.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant.
Good afternoon, sir.
When you first arrived at the scene, was there crime scene tape up?
No, there was not, sir.
Was there any barricade up at all?
No, there was not.
Was there any evidence that the crime scene was being secured at that time?
There was no police presence on scene, sir.
Okay. So that when you arrived, the scene had been left unsecured. Do you know how long it had been left unsecured?
I do not, sir.
So before you arrived, at least, and before your presence was known, or sometime before you got there, that scene could have been accessed by anyone, to your knowledge.
Well, I think the weather played a good help in us with the scene security, because with that being fresh, undisturbed snow, and with the man tracking we do, we would be able to determine if anyone had access to that area.
Of course.
Fresh,
But you don't
undisturbed
have any
snow?
personal knowledge of anybody actually securing that scene for onlookers, bypassers, anybody that wanted access to it, they could have had it.
Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay. You indicated
They
that Lieutenant Tully first
obliterated your
contacted
crime
you around,
scene, bro.
not around, but exactly at 2:32 p.m., correct?
That is correct, sir.
At that time, your team was not stood up. In other words, you were not activated because that was an initial call by Lieutenant Tully, not an activation call, correct?
Correct. That's a courtesy notification, sir.
And at that time, Lieutenant Tully had not received the proper protocol, the proper approvals through the protocol to actually have your team activate and have your team dispatched.
Yes, I think he'll normally, when we get activated, before they start the process going through their chain of command, they'll call me just to see if we're available and if we could actually respond instead of wasting other people's time calling us. If I were to say, no, we are already assigned on another mission at this time.
Right. So around 2:53, you indicated that one of your subordinates, Sergeant Simpson, notified
You know
the rest
who
of the
else,
team
Baker?
that
Real quick.
get ready, but
You know who else felt that the weather was good enough scene security? The Brits. When George Washington crossed the Delaware on Christmas Eve in the middle of a blizzard, frozen river, snuck around behind them and whipped their candy asses. All right. There's no such thing as security, scene security because of weather. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
Can I just, again, enlighten Americans about their own history? He didn't attack the British. He attacked mercenaries from Germany.
Same thing. They were wearing
No.
red.
It's actually quite different. It's two
They got
different
their
countries.
asses whipped either way. Doesn't matter. They were fighting for the wrong team, and they got their asses whipped.
I'm just saying that you have to be teaching about how George Washington, the first Swede to lead an army in America, cheated at war. At least make it right. It was Hessian mercenaries they attacked.
we have
Well, they got
not
their asses
been
whipped.
given the green light,
That's all
correct?
I know.
Correct, sir. Building an availability list
Yeah, serenity of really.
of who could respond.
Okay. That was just a kind of a precursor, if you will, for lack of a better phrase, to make sure that you had the available personnel. So when the green light, or if the green light came, you could activate.
Correct, and to help start giving people the heads up to start shoveling their driveway. Like I said, as soon as I received that call from Lieutenant Tully, I hadn't shoveled my driveway yet. I went out and had to go clear my driveway and my cruiser. And the end of my driveway, we usually get plowed in by our plows. We had several feet of snow at the end of my driveway, sir.
Lucky you.
Yes.
All right. Did Lieutenant Tully inform you in that first phone call that colleagues of his, Massachusetts State Police colleagues of his, were already en route to Dighton to retrieve or seize the SUV?
He did not say that, sir.
Did Lieutenant Tully inform you that Massachusetts State Police had actually contacted the Dighton Police Department for their assistance in potentially seizing that SUV?
He did not tell me that, sir.
Did he indicate to you, you indicated that your conversation was at 12:32. Did he indicate that he had just gotten off the phone with Dighton PD at 12:31, just a minute prior?
Our phone call was at 2:32, sir.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if that can,
Did I say
if
12:32?
that's a different time you're looking to.
2:32, and he had just gotten off the phone with Dighton PD at 2:31. Did he indicate anything like that?
No, we did not, sir.
Okay. So we do know that at that 2:30-ish hour, you were not authorized to respond to the unit, to the location at that point. None of your units were en route at that point.
No, neither one of us had requested approval through our chain of command at that time, sir.
And you've already told.
No, Valhalla just called all British Germans. Just the royal house. It's not all the British.
Told us that you didn't head out until just after 4, sometime after 4 p.m.
Yes, my GPS data has me leaving my driveway at 4:13 p.m.
Got it. Once you were at 34 Fairview, you arrived first, correct?
No, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, I mistook that. Tell me who did arrive first.
Trooper Busalil arrived at 4:54, and I pulled in just after him at 4:56, sir.
My mistake. When you first arrived, you were waiting others of your team to arrive as well in their personal vehicles or their marked vehicles, correct?
They were still en route at that time, yes, sir.
When you got there, you did not know at that point where you were going to be directed to search, correct?
I did not know, sir.
All you knew was a residence and an address, correct?
Correct.
As your team members arrived, were they arriving in personal vehicles, cruisers, or some combination thereof?
They were all arriving in state-issued cruisers.
Okay, so all 7 of you arrived, 7 total, correct?
Correct. We, again, initially started 8.
Well, the best thing about the Queen was she married a Danish prince.
One member was not able to get off the end of their street due to plowing, so we were one member short from the original dispatch.
Understood. Lieutenant, when you arrived, given the fact that you did not know where you'd be searching, you've actually indicated previously that the flagpole, the fire hydrant, et cetera, that part of the lawn, that part of the yard was behind you as the cruisers pulled up and you parked your cruisers waiting for everybody to get there, correct?
When I arrived, I parked almost at the end of the driveway of that residence, sir.
Okay, was your tail facing the flagpole or was your nose facing the flagpole?
Tail was facing the flagpole.
So
sir.
you pulled up to the driveway, I'm guessing from Chapman?
Yes,
heading north?
correct, sir. Yes, from Chapman.
Okay, so you pulled over to the edge of the driveway, sort of on the wrong side of the street, I'm guessing.
Same side as 34 Fairview, sir.
Understood. So the area and the grid area that you ultimately decided to search and ultimately were directed to search, that was all behind you.
Yes, it was.
And it was dark out, obviously.
Yes, it was, sir.
Getting dark.
It was dark. It was winter, so it was dark at
Okay.
5 o'clock.
Your focus was certainly not on the area behind you at that point, correct?
While
As
we
a
were
matter of fact,
driving,
your
sir?
focus wasn't really anywhere, was it? Because you
No.
didn't know where you were going to search.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Ultimately, your team members began to arrive one by one, and each one of them would stay in their car, or would they get out and come coordinate with you, like at your cruiser?
No, as they arrived on scene, they would come out because Lieutenant Tully had already arrived on scene. He was technically the third member of the state police on scene.
Okay.
So once he got on scene, I was already out talking to him, and I was marking off the area we were going to search.
Understood.
Only two, the CPD and the CERT team. The CERT team is from the state troopers. But they had 5 people from the CPD running around where he could only recognize 2 or 3 of them. But no one could have contaminated the scene. No one.
He said that he had 8 people go, 1
7.
couldn't make it. 1 didn't
Yeah,
make
he
it,
had
right? So,
he had 7 plus him, 8 people from the CERT team.
and then there was other people that weren't there when he got there, but showed up from the Massachusetts State Police that he didn't recognize?
No, from the Canton PD.
From Canton PD?
I'm pretty sure it was Tully is state troopers as well. Sorry. Yeah, so 3 to 5 people, but I don't know every 2,500 people who work for the state police.
Yeah.
Maybe you should check it. Maybe just, oh, hey, everyone, we are a specialized unit doing a sweep. Can you please just write your name in the log so we know who is at the scene in case we, in 3 years' time, need to testify in court who was at the scene? Nah. I'll put it up here. I'll remember it.
He ultimately, at some point, did direct you to a location behind you, which you were not currently focused on, toward the flagpole, the fire hydrant, you said.
Yeah, I wasn't focused on any area at that time, sir, no.
You marked those the areas out that Lieutenant Tully directed you to with some sort of grid coordinates, or was it just sort of a mental grid?
No, I wound up marking, stepping it off in the area I wanted to search, sir.
Did you use any string or rope or anything like that to physically grid the area off?
No, I just marked a line in the snow, sir, where I wanted to start and where we wanted to end.
And you did that with footprints?
No, with the shovel, I made a mark where we wanted to start and end,
I
sir.
see. So sort of dragging a shovel in the line.
Oh,
right in the
just
snow.
where the berm was, sir. I knocked the berm down, made an obvious impression of where the shovel was.
Okay.
At the starting location where ideally I wanted to end.
Perfect. You indicated that the area that you were searching was relatively undisturbed snow. You said that in direct examination, correct?
It was undisturbed, yes, sir.
But the street, everything from the berm in, the street had been plowed, correct?
To a point, yes, sir.
All right. And so that would be disturbed snow.
Yeah, to a point, yes, sir.
And what was the point?
To where the snow that got plowed in, it all rose up just like the end of your driveway would. There was a good 3 to 4 foot high barrier on each side of the street. Once you were able to knock down that initial barrier of snow, the level of snow dropped down to the normal depths that you would have seen in anyone's front lawn at that time, sir.
And is that what you're calling the undisturbed portion of the snow?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Lieutenant Tully told you that you were going to be looking for a man's shoe, a sneaker of some sort, or a shoe of some sort, correct?
He said sneaker, yes, sir.
And he told you that you'd be searching for red plastic potentially from a taillight. Is that right?
I said taillight pieces, yes, sir.
Did he indicate that some of them would be red, some might be clear, might be a combination of the two?
He didn't indicate a color either way, sir.
He did direct you to where he believed you should search. It was his direction that sort of gave you your grid coordinates, correct?
He indicated where the vehicle had been parked and where the victim's body had been located and suggested that was the primary area to search.
Did he tell you whether or not he knew from personal knowledge where where John O'Keefe's body had been?
He did not, sir, no.
Did he tell you whether he had personal knowledge where any taillight material might be?
He did not know, sir.
Did he tell you that he had any personal knowledge where an impact site might have been?
He did not know.
Did he tell you that he had personal knowledge that there had been an impact site at the location?
No, he just said he believed the incident involved the vehicle.
Okay. One of your goals when looking at the search location was to obviously remove the snow as methodically as you could, correct?
Yes, sir.
You wanted to not only remove layers of snow, but then ultimately expose the layer beneath it with as little disturbance as possible. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
I think you noted that the plow had not plowed all the way to the curb, so the snowbank was sort of in the street, not in the yard, or at least a few inches from the curb line and not in the yard, correct?
Correct, sir. As I stated, as some of the responding members parked, they were thinking they were parking in a safe spot in the street, and their cruisers wound up being stuck at the end of the night.
And you and your team had some experience doing searches in snowy conditions, being from Massachusetts, I'm guessing.
Missing person searches, we've never been out for an evidence search in this specific type of conditions, but we have done missing person searches.
So this was the first time you and your team had executed a search of this nature in these kinds of conditions for these kinds of items?
In blizzard conditions, yes, for an evidence search, yes.
But you did indicate on direct examination that although it was blizzard conditions and the winds were high, and we learned that windy conditions sort of define a blizzard in some respects, the visibility was relatively good.
Yeah, with our headlamps, we had pretty decent visibility.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about the techniques for conducting a search like this in some sort of snowfall. Obviously, as a specialist in searches, one of the things that you put as the highest priority is documenting exactly where the search is conducted, what techniques are used to conduct the search, and what, if anything, is found and exactly where it's found, correct?
Yes, documentation of your search is important, yes, sir.
You'd also want to document the time that things are found, correct?
Yes, you want those documented.
And you'd want to document the relative locations between and among items that are found. How close are they to each other? How close are they or far are they from a stable landmark, a static landmark, correct?
So we will mark items, sir. Measuring in between distances, they do get stamped when we mark our items. Measuring them would be at the discretion of the investigators themselves.
And obviously that would be among the best practices to clearly document how a search is conducted, correct?
Correct, sir.
Another way to document the evidence or the search is to do it through either video evidence or photographic techniques, right? Just photographing, forensic photographs of where things are found, contextual photographs moving into close-up photographs, correct?
That would be at the discretion of the detective, sir.
And in this case, that discretion lay with Lieutenant Tully, correct?
Yeah, he was the incident commander, correct, sir.
You indicated a number of hand tools that you brought with you to the search to make sure that you had the tools necessary to get through the snow and get to the items that if there were any items out there, to get to the items you were looking for. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
And you did, in fact, remove layer by layer of snow and sort of sift through it as best you could, correct?
Yes, sir.
That also included some shovels where a shovel full of snow might be gathered and then turned over, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. That was done somewhat methodically. Is that right?
Yes, it was, sir.
And you wanted to make sure that you weren't missing anything as you were digging through the top layers of snow and getting down to something closer to the surface, correct?
Correct, sir.
And at that time, what was the level of snow, if you can estimate it? How much snowfall?
I believe the area, not living that far from that location myself, was anywhere from 15 to 18 up to maybe 20 inches in certain towns.
And again, this is after 5:45, 5:48 in the evening of January 29th.
When the first item was discovered, it was 5:45.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, a search of this complexity and with this many individuals and with those conditions required some level of significant coordination by you and your team, correct?
Yes, sir.
You had to account for all the personnel who were there. Is that right?
Correct, sir.
That included, I'm going to go through a quick list: Bearden, Beausoleil, Carrier, Luis, O'Brien, O'Hara, you, and Biscardi. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So there were 7 individuals, as well, Lieutenant, as 7 vehicles to account for to make sure you're not driving over the wrong areas, walking over the wrong areas, standing over the wrong areas, correct?
Correct, sir.
And not only did you have to account for those 7 officers, each of whom arrived in their own vehicles, you also had to make sure that those vehicles were positioned in the right spot to make sure you don't drive over the area that you need to search and might be impacted by your cars, correct?
Yes, sir. After Lieutenant Tully arrived on scene, the remaining cruisers never came past the initial location of where we believe the incident occurred.
Before he came on scene, the cruisers that were there were down toward the driveway, closer to where you were, and you, of course, were positioned with your back to the location that ultimately was searched, correct?
Yes, sir. That was 2 of the 7 cruisers, yes.
Okay. Once you learned where you wanted to search, you literally had to sort of turn around physically turn things around to begin searching behind where you had originally positioned yourself. No fault of your own, you just didn't know where to go. You had to sort of turn around and go backward toward the area of the flagpole, away from the area of the driveway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so as you began to focus on the other side of the house, the other side of the driveway,
Yeah, that's the time I remember. Because I remember something about shortly before 5:45. Is what I had in my memory. So it was 5:41, 5:42, or something like that. So it seems
Why would
correct.
Why would they move that part up?
Because the SUV didn't arrive in the Sally Port till 5:34.
Oh.
So them finding the piece there at this time would again hinder the contamination of the crime scene.
you had to actually reposition a couple of the cruisers. You didn't have to, but you chose to reposition a couple of the cruisers to turn their lights back around, correct?
Oh, that is correct, sir.
At some point, you've indicated that there were other individuals who you noticed were at the scene. Is that right?
Yes, there were non-cert members on scene, sir.
Okay. And those non-cert members included, or they numbered at least 5 individuals, not including Lieutenant Tully. Is that right?
I believe that includes Lieutenant Tully, sir. I believe,
The
I believe it was 5 total.
Okay, so 5 does include Lieutenant Tully. There were 4 others that were non-cert members, correct?
Correct, sir.
And those were members, I think you've earlier testified that those were members of either Massachusetts State Police or Canton Police or both. Is that right?
I believe it was both, yes, sir.
And you did not recognize.
Canton Police had nothing to do at the scene. They had excluded themselves already that morning. Why are they at the scene now?
As those individuals.
I recognize one of the state police members. I believe a second one was also a state police member that I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
And then 2 other members that I believe were Canton Police, but again, not familiar with them.
And these individuals were obviously, it's dark. You're not paying attention to them. You're not paying attention to what they're doing. They probably have hats and hoods and gloves on, I'm guessing.
Well, they didn't arrive on scene right away, so we were already well into our search before they even arrived on scene. The only one who was on scene originally was Lieutenant Tully.
If you weren't paying close attention to those 4 officers, those additional 4 officers, how do you know exactly what time they arrived on scene?
They weren't in the area we were searching, so they came on scene after we were already on our line searching, sir.
So they may have been in the area, but you didn't see them until your line search had already begun and you made note of them, correct?
Correct. I don't know when the exact time they arrived on scene, sir, but they weren't on scene when we were when we started our search.
Or they weren't in your vision when they started your search?
No, they weren't on scene, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
But you don't know, as you sit here, you can't say what time they showed up.
I do not know, sir.
And did they come at your direction?
They did not.
Did they come at the direction of any of your staff members, any of your colleagues?
No, we did not request them, sir.
Okay. So they were there for some reason other than why you were there.
That's correct, sir.
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
These individuals, you noted they were either from, I think you said 2 from Massachusetts State Police and 2 from Canton Police, correct?
Yeah, including Lieutenant Tully, probably three MSP and 2 Canton Police, sir.
Okay. Excluding Lieutenant Tully, who was working very closely with you, the other 4 individuals, they were in full uniform or they were plain clothes?
Plain clothes, sir.
And your focus, once you began your search, once you stood up the team, turned your cars around and realized exactly the grid where you were going to search, that's when what your focus was on, correct?
Yeah, I was focused on our search area, correct, sir.
And when you're searching a line, for instance, if it's a line that extends to your right or to your left, the search that you're conducting is literally right directly in front of you, correct?
Well, you're always looking left or right because you're staying online with your teammates, so you always have a full view of the scene you're searching, sir.
Understood. I'm not saying that you look down and never look up again. But I'm saying that your focus,
What are you doing?
is directly in front of you. That's why you do a line search. So you can take small steps, search in front of you, move forward, search in front of you. As
I don't know if the jury will catch it, but I think it gets a little bit lost in the people there, the searching. How do you search? I wouldn't go that deep into how they search. I would try and imply that there's a lot of cops around that could have dropped something.
Not to mention the scene was unsecure for how many hours?
That is best practice, yes, sir.
That's how you make sure you don't miss an overturned leaf. There might be a knife under or a gun under or something like that, or a casing, something like that.
9 hours?
Correct, sir.
Or a taillight.
Correct, sir.
All right, so as your focus is, your world sort of collapses a little bit. Your focus is in front of you. You're obviously working with the team.
Exactly,
members,
Captain
left and
Stevens.
You're moving forward very, very gently, very methodically.
At this time, at 2:32, according to them, they still thought it was a DV gone bad. But then they will drive down to Dayton, where they on the way there will require a tow truck, even though they have no idea that it has a broken tail light. Apparently, based on Jen's talk about I hit him, even though Bukaki had called the medical examiner and asked if he could have been hit in the face with a cocktail glass. So I'm not saying pin it on the girl, but Alan Jackson is.
Very technically, as you move forward and the whole line moves forward on that grid, correct?
Correct, sir.
So you're not necessarily paying attention to what's happening behind you, off in the distance, in the dark, to your left far, to your right far. That's not what your focus is on, at least at that moment, correct?
No, sir. Our focus is forward and as we're moving forward into our search area.
Thank you. In addition to the 5 individuals, Lieutenant Tully included, and the other 4, there was also another person that made contact with you from 34th Avenue, correct?
Yes, when we first arrived on scene, someone had exited the residence onto the front steps, front porch area, possibly of that mudroom.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Of that mudroom, so that right door, the exit, the door closest to the garage, sir.
That
Can you
they
describe that
never
person for
use.
us?
It was an adult male wearing a hooded sweatshirt.
Did that person approach you or one of your team members?
No, search. I just don't know if you used the word very satisfied or not.
Active.
No, there was one piece of taillight located before the shoe, sir.
Literally right directly in front of you.
Deal with them.
And these individuals were obviously, it's dark, you're not paying attention, who's working very closely with you.
Correct, sir.
So you're not necessarily paying attention.
Of that mudroom, so that right door, the exit, the door closest to the garage, sir.
Can you describe that person for us?
It was an adult male wearing a hooded sweatshirt.
Did that person approach you or one of your team members?
No, he never left the front door area.
Did he say anything to you or one of the team members?
He asked if we were here for what happened earlier. We replied yes, and he turned and went back inside the residence.
And as you sit here, you don't know who that person is,
I do not, sir, no.
but he's a male, I'm guessing middle-aged,
It was not a child, sir. It was definitely an adult male, sir.
adult male wearing a hooded sweatshirt.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It could be me.
You testified that you recovered, I have a hard time speaking, it's been a long day. I apologize. We'll try that again. You testified that you recovered a piece of plastic first before you recovered the shoe, or do I have that backward?
No, there was one piece of taillight located before the shoe, sir.
Understood. You've also indicated that of the, I think you said 6 or 7 total pieces of plastic that were found, that all of those pieces of plastic and the shoe were found basically right next to each other, correct?
I don't know the exact distances, but they weren't too far apart, some several inches to others maybe a foot or two. I don't know the exact distances, sir.
Without assigning an exact measurement down to the millimeter, Lieutenant, you've earlier indicated that all of the pieces and the shoe relative to each other, it's just relative to each other, were found within a foot or so of each other, correct?
Eyeball, again, that's the distance I just said, sir, from inches to maybe a couple of feet. I know they all are geomarked with exact coordinates that, could be measured out at a later time, which again would have been at the purview of the detectives, but we did not measure them. Again, all eyeball that night.
Understood. When I say, and it may have been a bad question on my part, Lieutenant, and if it was, I apologize. When I say a foot, within a foot of each other, I don't mean a foot apart. All of them you've earlier testified would be inside of a foot total, correct? Or maybe 2 feet now?
I don't think they'd be quite that close, sir. I think they were maybe in between each item, sir, or close to it.
I have just a moment, Your Honor.
What? They may be in between each item. What did he say?
Okay.
I don't think they'd be quite
When I say a foot,
marked with exact coordinates that, could be measured out at a later time, which again would have been at the purview.
Also, I thought he
of the
only
detectives. We did not
identified
measure
a
them. Again,
couple.
all eyeball that night.
understood.
GPS.
When I say, and it may have been a bad question on my part, Lieutenant, and if it was, I apologize. When I say a foot, within a foot of each other, I don't mean a foot apart. All of them you've earlier testified would be inside of a foot total, correct? Or
I don't
maybe
think
2 feet now?
I don't think they'd be quite that close, sir. I think they were maybe in between each item, sir, or close to it.
I have just a moment, Your Honor.
Didn't they say they couldn't plot it on the GPS because it was so close?
It got all clustered,
Yeah.
so we only plotted like
Yeah.
3 things.
I know this isn't necessarily a memorization contest about your prior testimony, but do you remember testifying about this specific issue? Here I go again. I can't speak. This specific issue about a year ago, back in 2022 at a grand jury.
Yes, I did, sir.
Okay. Do you remember exactly how you described where everything was with relative? Big fifth, was that a fact of grand jury?
Okay.
Stay at the microphone.
Exactly.
I believe I said within a few inches or a foot away. Yes, sir.
Excellent. So, you've rattled off times and dates like I've never seen before. So it's exactly what you said. So within a few inches of each other, maybe a foot is what you said, correct?
That's what I said. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if it's maybe within a foot, this is an 11 and a half by 8.5 piece of paper, maybe an area a little larger than this, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. As you found items of evidence, did you alert Lieutenant Tully to that specific piece of evidence?
Yeah, so I was not one of the members who found any of the evidence, but as my team members located something, we would halt the line. Lieutenant Tully was a short distance behind our line. We would go out, get his attention. We would cease our operations until he informed us that he felt it was properly documented.
And ultimately, Lieutenant Tully was the person responsible for documenting that item. Is that right?
That is, sir. We fall under the incident command structure. He technically took the lead as the incident commander that night, sir.
And he did that through photography?
Yes, sir.
So you saw him taking pictures of the items in their place once they were found, correct?
Yeah, I believe he was the one taking photographs, sir.
And by definition, Lieutenant, as a search like this is being conducted, unfortunately, moving snow means possibly moving the items themselves, correct?
Potentially, yes, sir.
They might end up in a shovel full of snow, you turn it upside down. That's not what a piece of evidence was to begin with, correct?
Correct. It's been moved at that point.
But in this case, nearly all of the pieces that you did find, including the shoe, were nearly next to each other, meaning within inches of one another, correct?
I don't know the exact distance again, sir. Ballpark eye distance, but again, that is why we provided the GPS coordinates of each location, because we did stamp those with a handheld GPS as we found items of evidence, and all those locations were turned over with our report to be measured at the desire of the detective, sir.
Certainly, using that very impressive memory of yours, your memory back in May of 2022, May 5th of 2022, was that they were within inches of each other.
I believe that's what I stated, yes, sir.
Okay. Ultimately, you indicated that the search, after about 6 or 7 pieces were found, as well as the shoe, the search was suspended just after 6 o'clock, correct?
Approximately 6:15-ish, sir. We stopped. We'd gone, like I said, stated earlier, we'd gone approximately 8 to 10 feet further south on the road without recovering any other pieces of taillight. We knew we'd already located the sneaker, so we decided to suspend the search at that time until possibly a future date.
And you were never called.
If you're looking for a missing person and you find their shoe, do you think, hey, at least we found their shoe? And then you just suspend it and maybe come back next week and look for the rest of them? Or do you say, oh, we are on the trail, let's find everything? And would you, if you were on that team, would you call up and say, hey, you want us to go back and check it now? The snow has stopped. We could potentially find more evidence. You want us to, we are specialists in this. We have all the equipment. Just let us know. Hey, we found a shoe the last time, but it was snowing and it was really cold, so we wanted to go home and get cocoa. But do you want us to come back? We can do it today. It's Sunday. Nothing's happening. Just let us know. We can be there in 6-8 hours. We have to shovel the snow. So just no, you don't never want us back on the scene with our specialist skills. You'll just wait for the snow to melt. Sounds like great detectiving.
Back out to the scene by Lieutenant Tully or anybody else, correct?
No, we were not, sir.
And did you become aware that over the next days and several weeks, there would be 40 more pieces of taillight claimed to be recovered at the scene? Did you become aware of that or no?
I was aware other pieces were located. I did not know that was the number, and I don't know exactly when I became aware of that. It was probably much later on, possibly at this location when I learned that information.
Well, she was running a train out in the garage. Baker, stop it.
And you don't know, here, you don't know whom it was that recovered those?
No.
No, I've never seen the evidence log, sir.
And you don't know when those additional pieces were collected?
I do not know.
When Lieutenant Tully and you had a conversation about shutting down the scene, was Lieutenant Tully's comment to you after those first few pieces were found that he was, quote, very satisfied that you had recovered everything that you were going to recover from that night, from that search.
Sustained.
Mr. Brennan asked you about conversation that you had with Lieutenant Tully to shut the scene down, to clear the scene, correct?
Yes, sir. We conducted a debrief and I gave him, again, as I mentioned earlier, we provide a probability of detection. I tell him what the chances are. I think we found our items we were looking for and we determined to suspend the search.
Do you remember?
How bad a detective are you when you thought you had found what you could find, and they then find you haven't even found 10% of the material found? You found maybe 7 pieces. Well, that's more than 10%. You found 5% of the total material because you found 5 or 6 pieces of evidence, and there was 50 pieces of evidence found in total. That's a little less than 5%. Tully is the poisoned fruit. Tully is an interesting character. Let's just say that. Why the objection? To break up the flow. At least he can tie. His knot is on. Yeah, will Brandon claim clip on again today because he has tie envy?
Testifying last year that Lieutenant Tully indicated that he was very satisfied with what was found.
I don't know if he used the word very satisfied, but he was satisfied that evening that we had found everything we were going to find that night, sir.
Ma'am, just a moment, Your Honor. Do you remember exactly what you indicated Lieutenant Tully's words were as you sit here?
I believe, yes, he was satisfied from the search. I just don't know if he used the word very satisfied or not, sir.
Would refresh your recollection, take a look at your transcript.
I'm sure it will, sir.
Is there one thing?
Thank you, sir.
That's known as the hoe train.
The hoe train.
Is that like the Olympics
Just going on the date.
or?
Is this from last year or would this be from the grand jury?
No, it's just a train of hose.
Last year.
Okay.
The
Yes, sir. So it does
wrestler
state here
for
that I
the
stated he was very
90s,
satisfied.
2000s.
Refresh your recollection, that was the word that you used, at least you remember him using that.
Yeah, I believe, to the best of my recollection, sir. Thank you, sir.
May I just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Imagine on other channels, oh, this is really a good point. You can really, I remember Bradwell v. Michigan. It's an interesting contradiction he brings up here on this channel. Oh, this reminds me of Abashanko when he turned into, what was his name?
The Godfather.
The Godfather and his hoe train. His Papa Shango might have been a little racist.
You think?
Nah, it's not like Kamala, but still.
Kamala was worse. Kamala was way worse.
It's probably the most racist. Well, there was that time where Jim Knight had actually wrestled in a pointy white outfit.
What in the name of all that is Cheetos? Also, what is
And I
Kamala
actually think he
doing
was wrestling a
Lieutenant,
black
there was
guy.
one other
Wrong Kamala.
thing
This
that I wanted to ask you
was a
about, which
giant
is
black guy
That
from like Chattanooga.
you had indicated to Lieutenant Tully at some point, close to 6 p.m. or so, it would be helpful if you and your team had a photograph of what it was you were looking for, correct?
Yeah, I believe after we found the first piece or two, I asked him if he had a photograph that we could look at just to see how large of an area,
So that
how large of a
would,
piece we were looking for, sir. Yes.
fine. So that would just timing wise, if you found the first piece at 5:45, first piece or two, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minutes later after that, maybe 5 minutes later. So let's place it at 5:50, close to 6, something like that.
Yeah, probably between 5:45 and 5:50 possibly, sir.
And you said to him at the time, it'd be helpful if we had a photograph of what it is you're looking for, correct?
Yeah, I
Sheik
said that would
wasn't
help.
racist.
And
That was his own
Lieutenant
gimmick.
Tully told you that the vehicle did not have a photograph.
The Sheik.
Still en route.
Oh.
Being transported.
Sheiky baby.
He did say he did not have a photograph and it was being towed back.
Okay.
So that was a lie.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Brennan.
Thank you.
Kamala,
I'm trying to find a gif of the belly smack. I can't.
I think that's one of those, yeah. No,
Sir, you
the
mentioned
Sheik
that
is
there
actually
were about 5 people
Iranian.
not on your CERT team at some point arriving at Fairview Road or the area of it.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
3 of them were Mass State Police. You mentioned Tully and 2 of his colleagues.
Correct, sir.
Did you see anybody taking photographs of the items that you found?
Yes, Lieutenant Tully was taking photographs while we were there, sir.
And did you see somebody putting the items in bags?
Yes, they did, sir.
Was that one of the two people that were with Lieutenant Tully?
Yes, correct, sir.
You mentioned there were two Canton police officers. Were they part of the search?
They were not, sir, no.
Were they on the grid?
They were not, sir.
They were on the search last year.
That's
This is Kamala.
That could be a little bit insensitive culturally.
It was the Ugandan giant.
Did you ever see them in the area on the grid?
I did not, no, sir.
They were there. Were they involved in any way in the crowd?
They weren't the only people that ever came on scene other than us and the
See somebody putting the item in
photograph.
And it told we had photographs of what it was looking for, correct?
Yeah, I said that would help you, sir.
Well, just timing wise, if you found the first piece at 5:45, first piece or two, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 minutes later, after that, maybe 5 minutes later. So let's place it at 5:50, close to 6, something like that.
Yeah, probably between 5:45 and 5:50, possibly, sir.
And you said to him at the time it'd be helpful if we had photograph of what it was looking for, correct?
Yeah, I said that would help you, sir.
And Lieutenant Tully told you that the vehicle did not have a photograph because it's still en route from Dyken being transported to camp, right?
He did say he did not have a photograph and it was being towed back.
Okay. Thank you.
So that was a lie that it was being
I
towed at
understand.
5:50.
They were not, sir, no.
Were they on the grid?
They were not, sir.
Did you ever see them in the area on the grid?
I did not, no, sir.
They were there. Were they involved in any way in the crowd?
They weren't the only people that ever came on scene other than us and those local officers were at some point, the media did arrive on scene.
When you say on scene, is on scene different than on the grid?
Correct, just in the general vicinity, sir.
Did you know what the Canton police officers were doing?
I do not know, sir.
Did you ever see either of them ever come on your grid?
They did not know, sir.
Did you ever see anybody place or toss or throw anything onto your grid?
I'll allow it.
Did you ever see anybody place or toss or throw anything onto your grid?
I do not know, sir.
Did you ever see anybody intrude on the grid and leave an item?
Did you ever see, did you with 100% certainty not see anything happen? Can you with any possibility rule out that anyone could have placed anything at the scene after John O'Keefe was removed that morning at 6:17? Can you in any way prove that nothing had disturbed the crime scene since then?
In 12
Ask that
hours.
question.
Yeah.
Then he will say, objection.
Choose a different word.
Did you ever see anybody physically intrude upon your grid?
No, no one did that, sir.
You were asked
Against
about
testimony.
best practices memorializing. The person who was taking photographs,
Hold on for a second.
Slow down a little, Mr. Brennan.
you mentioned best practices of memorializing items. And you also mentioned Lieutenant Tully was taking photographs.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Do you know if those photographs were time and date stamped?
I believe they were, sir.
Is time and date stamping with photographs best practices in memorializing things?
Yes, they are, sir.
Now, before you defined the grid and before you began that search, you knew other state police officers, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Did you know a person by the name of Trooper Yuri Buchanek?
Yes, I do know him, sir.
Did you know somebody at the time known as Trooper Michael Proctor?
Yes, I did know. I do know him, sir.
Were either
Did know.
Michael Proctor or Trooper Yuri Buchanek at Fairview that night?
No, they were not, sir.
Did you see them at any time from the point you got there at 4:56 p.m. until when you left?
No, I did not see them there, sir.
You mentioned that somebody came out of a side door at 34 Fairview who had a hoodie on.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
How long were they outside for?
Maybe 10 seconds, sir.
Did they at any time interfere with your search?
No, they did not.
Did they at any time try to discourage or dissuade you from searching?
Objection, Your Honor.
Next question, I'll sustain that.
Did that person do anything to impede your search?
No, he did not.
You were asked about your conversation with Trooper Tully,
Yes, sir.
and he mentioned, or you characterized, he was very satisfied that what you had found, everything you were going to locate at that time.
That's correct, sir.
Did he ever suggest that he expected that you would not find anything else?
No, he did not.
Did he ever suggest that there was no other trace evidence there?
No, he did not.
Was there a discussion that he or you or other people may come back to search further at a different time?
We offered to come back at a later date, and he just accepted our offer, but we were never contacted to come back, sir.
When you offered to come back, was that based on your assessment that it was a difficult area to search?
Correct. Again, as we talked about probability of detection, we'll base that on 10 different categories, give him a baseline percentage chance of it. Would we have found what we were looking for? I told him there was a good chance we did not locate all the evidence. Asked him if he wanted us to come back at a later date, sir.
And when you mentioned that you couldn't finish the search because of the grass, tell us a little bit about what made it difficult because of the grass.
Even using the push brooms, we couldn't properly move the snow off the grass as we were moving it. And with the dark, even the headlamps, I didn't feel like we were clearing it enough to continue searching it. I think our best efforts would be to focus on the street, because I was more concerned about eventually the plow coming in, clearing curb to curb and moving any evidence that was on the street. My thought was, if with the grass not being able to properly clear it, at least that would be contained to be searched at a later date as the snow melted.
And
Why
given
didn't you
those
use a leaf
assessments,
blower?
is that some of those reasons why you offered to come back?
Yes, sir.
I've shown you some photographs you've identified about some of the pieces that you found or the pieces that you found that night. I'd like to show those photographs to the jury. If we could show Exhibit 73, please. Is that one of the photographs you identified earlier?
Yes, it is, sir.
Is there a chance, Ms. Gilman, that we could do a close-up of that? Can you describe what you're seeing?
It's a piece of clear taillight.
Look closely at these dimples. They are what made the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm, according to Lally in the last trial.
The furrows.
Dear
according
Lord,
to
I
Nuttall.
forgot about that.
Yeah, this is the dimples that made the furrows. How stupid do you have to just make that argument? And what those furrows would dig out a lot of tissue, and there's no tissue on this piece.
Okay,
Just that you
Baker.
can say it, and the jury didn't stand up, laughed, and said, "Are you effing kidding us?" Shows that juries can't be trusted.
It's got rigid edges, some indentations on it, distinctive markings.
Did all of the pieces you found have those type of markings on it?
Not sure if they had those exact same markings, so I'd have to compare the photos.
Was there different colors of pieces that you found that night?
Yes, we also found pieces of red taillight as well.
Could we see 73A, please? Without blowing it up, if you could go back. Did 73A a picture from further away of the same piece?
Yes, that's what it appears to be, sir.
Was it?
What?
Why is it laying up here in the snow?
What is going on here?
They have dug down up here, and there's a piece of snow just poking out of the snow. We know there's no snow in the morning. So how did it move a couple of inches up in the snow during the day?
Baker, also, when you're making taillights for cars that are possibly going to get in accidents, would they break into a gajillion and 12 pieces, or is it generally tempered glass that doesn't?
No, it's a
explode?
polycarbonate plastic. So
Oh.
it's actually made not to shred. It'll break off in kind of rounder pieces, if you
Oh.
can say it in that way.
No, that makes more sense.
It's kind of like glass that's been underwater.
Oh, hey, I'm learning
So
all the things. I'm feeling
It's the same
smarter.
if you bust your front. If a deer hits your and flies through your front window, the glass would splinter in a way so it's not cutting you up as badly as if you went through a window.
That's what
Easier
I
to
thought.
see these pieces that night in person than it is in photos, or is there any difference in the ability to identify these pieces?
Sustained.
When you saw the piece from where you were standing, did it look any different than it does in this photo?
No, it doesn't, sir.
Can we see 75, please? In that picture from this perspective, can you see any pieces of taillight?
There's a piece of red taillight in the.
Well, it certainly
Again,
wasn't found
on
on
the
the top of
top?
that snow mound.
How did it get on top of this? We just had a guy testifying that this would be the level of snow maximum that was when John O'Keefe died. And you can see this is a shoveled area. It's not clean snow. These idiots shoveled evidence away from the place it was. If it was found, if it had been on the ground, they must have moved it from down here, because this is the level where the body was found, all the way up here. Or could someone easily distribute a piece of taillight here? I hope the jury is
How
not
do
stupid.
taillights not have gravity? I mean, honest to goodness, if it was no snow when she hit him, and that's what we're going with, wouldn't all of this crap be on the very bottom layer? A layer of snow that let me remind you, that couldn't be moved by a snow or a leaf blower. So how are they magically finding these things when he could barely find the blood?
Yeah, the last trial they said, no, this wasn't the piece that was scooped up, was it? Didn't it have a shovel mark right next to it and said, oh yeah, we found it. And then we put it back down to show where we found it, even though we didn't find it down there.
Left-hand side of that photo, sir.
On a little bit of a mound?
Correct, sir.
Is that where that piece was found, on the mound?
No, that's the photo, like we discussed earlier, sir, that came up with one of the shovels. And you can see, when you get close to that photo, you'll see the actual molding of the overturned shovel.
So it was scooped up and then placed on that mound?
Correct. As the trooper overturned it to start beginning to sift through the different layers of snow, that's where he deposited that snow, sir.
So again, there's no way of telling where that piece of taillight came from, because they found it after digging in the snow and just overturning it.
And if they placed it right there with if they placed it right there with the grid coordinates, it's going to be inaccurate. Period.
Yeah.
It's not where they found it.
And again, was it 1 inch into the snow, or was it 20? How much was it? 22.8 inches of snow that was at the time?
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah. So let's just say, was it 1 inch under the surface, or was it 20 inches under the surface? That has a very big significance, because one of those is planted and the other one could have been deposited if John O'Keefe was hit, which he wasn't. But this is such a bad investigation that I just hope, even though it's almost 4 o'clock, that the jury is picking up of all of this.
Could we get a close-up of the left side of that picture, please? Can you see the shovel marks near that piece?
Yes, they're directly behind it, and off to the left, you can see the molding of the shovel.
You can see it.
What?
They're
Why does it
putting
look like
these
a
big
bunch of
mounds.
people peed?
They're putting up big mounds of snow to try and make an impression that there's so much snow here. All of this is shoveled up from the ground. There wasn't that much snow. It's a mound of snow they built. And who peed in this part of the snow?
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, all the troopers were trying to write their name in cursive.
A bit of a divot to the
It's all
left of the red.
Yes, correct, sir.
Is that part of imprint from the shovel?
Yes, it is, sir.
Could we see 75A, please? Is that a closer picture of the same item?
Yes.
The imprint, is that?
Get the hell out of here. Okay. Baker, stop making the truth happen. God.
Yes, it is, sir.
Could we see 75A, please? Is that a closer picture of the same item?
Yes.
The imprint, does that give you a clearer view of the shovel you were speaking about?
Yes, it does, sir.
Could we see
Where do you
76,
see a
please?
shovel?
Is that one of the photographs you identified?
Was I muted when I was doing my rant about the two pictures weren't the same?
Oh, yes, you were muted. We thought you were just going back and forth, and we just figured you were making us feel dumb.
Yeah, but Is it the same picture from two
No,
different
it's-
angles?
I think it is. I think it is.
It
I
could
think
be.
But this,
that I think is the circled thing that you circled.
this
think
knobby
it's that.
thing, it's buried lower. Right?
It might be a shadow.
It could be a shadow. It's the same with the shoe that we talked about the last time, that the sole looked dark in it, and then they said
Baker,
it wasn't.
let me see if I can find Thor, and we will figure this out. He is a weather cat, and he is Blanco, so he might have an affinity for snow. I'll be right back.
I'm losing
Is
my
that a
mind.
closer picture of the same item?
Yes.
The imprint, does that give you a clearer view of the shovel you were speaking about?
Yes, it does, sir.
Can we see 76, please? Is that one of the photographs you identified earlier?
Yes, it is, sir.
And that piece, was it found at ground level,
Yes, that photo is where that item is located, sir.
touching the ground?
What?
Touching the ground.
Now they took it off the top and put it down on the ground and said, yeah, it's ground level. They
Is
have
it the
no
same
way
piece
of.
of plastic?
I think it's the same piece of plastic. They
Oh,
took it
shit.
from up here and put it down here and said, yeah, this is where we found it. It ended up here, but yeah, it's from here.
Okay, so in theory, they're trying to get us to buy that they took that chunk of snow, put it on top of the mound of snow they're supposed to be looking through, sifted through it like, curious little kittens, found that, took a picture where they dumped it, and then threw it back in the hole, and that's what we geolocated?
Yes.
Apparently.
I give up. I give up. Someone find me an emotional support cat.
And it looks like the one that's in a footprint.
Yes, sir.
Could we get a close-up of that, please?
Yeah, that's the one in the footprint.
And if we
Almost
could have
like
76,
a cop
please.
put it down and then stepped on it to bury it in the snow.
Is
What?
that a picture of the same item?
But why put it down and then just clear the area and say we found it here? Why put it under the? Because these chunks has nothing to do with how it was in the morning, because they have been shoveling this area for F's sake.
Yes, it is. Just zoomed in, sir.
See you, Amanda.
Bye,
You
Amanda.
can close that, please, and
Hi.
turn the lights on. Thank you.
I don't want to see your
To be
face.
clear on the
again, Brennan.
timeline, your colleague arrived, first colleague arrived at what time?
4:54 p.m., sir.
And you arrived at?
4:56.
You mentioned that it looked like fresh snow.
Yes, sir. The area we searched was fresh, undisturbed snow.
And when you got there at 4:56.
You keep saying that. That doesn't.
When you describe fresh.
It doesn't
undisturbed
make it
snow, is
so.
that
No, because we know the scene hadn't been undisturbed, because we have the pictures from the Asian's house where you can see where all the first responders have been running around. They even removed a body from the scene.
There's dash cam of 8 people running all over your scene. You keep saying undisturbed. That's not what undisturbed means, Lieutenant.
Okay. Now, I just learned from a hydrometeorologist that a blizzard also involves snow. So are you telling me that the snow couldn't move to make itself appear undisturbed because it was a GD blizzard?
And again, the heavy snowfall didn't start till later in the morning. So again, if someone left a crime scene unattended and someone went out there and did something to it, maybe went to Clearwater and found some pieces of plastic in the driveway after someone might have hit a car, and picked that up and went over and chucked it in there. Then 9 hours later, when the search team arrives, yes, it would look like an undisturbed crime scene or an undisturbed snowfield. But idiots, it wasn't undisturbed because we have the pictures where it's disturbed. Oh,
This testimony is making me disturbed.
Falling
Can
water
confirm.
things.
we do love
You
the
first
Asians.
got there at 4:56.
Hell yeah.
Chris Albert,
Yes, I
Not
realized
fried
that
rice
plow had
forever.
not cleared
I
curb to curb.
appreciate it.
You began your actual search at what time?
yes.
Right around 5:20, we wound up again. We moved a couple of our cruisers around just so to add extra headlights, extra lighting on the scene itself.
And the first piece of evidence was found at what time?
5:45, sir.
Your area that you searched, did you say it was 8 to 10 feet?
No, sir. The area marked off was just over approximately 60 feet. We've gone about 8 to 10 feet towards the end of the search without locating any more items, and that's where we suspended the search.
How much of your focus was near the street area?
Only 99% of it, sir. As soon as we got to the grass and realized we couldn't clear it properly, my main focus was on that street, just again, because I was concerned about the plow coming through at a later time.
You were worried that if you didn't finish the street, there could be some impact from plowing?
Yes, sir.
And did you say 99% was the street area?
Yeah, approximately, sir.
Thank you very much.
Anything, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, briefly. So the search went approximately 60 feet.
That's the area I marked off, sir.
And in that 60 feet, you started close to or adjacent to the front door, correct?
Correct, sir.
And in that 60 feet, you were doing the type of search that we described earlier, that you described earlier, about going just a few paces at a time and starting to move material out of the way to try to get down to the surface, correct?
Yes, sir. All working together. Yes, sir.
And you did not find 40 pieces of taillight at or near or on that street or the lawn or anyplace else, correct?
Yeah, I don't know the overall number, sir, but
And neither did your colleagues.
correct, sir. We've never been notified how much has been located.
The only thing that you found was concentrated in one area, maybe a foot or 2 feet in diameter. You said 6 or 7 pieces and a shoe, correct?
That's what we located. Yes, sir.
You didn't find a black baseball cap, correct?
We did not know, sir.
And in the photographs that we've seen, that's clearly not undisturbed snow, correct?
The photographs are us moving after having moved the snow, sir.
Some of it is y'all moving the snow. Some of it is disturbed snow on the street or at the curb, correct?
After we had moved it, yes, sir.
You indicated that Trooper Proctor and Trooper Buchnick, you know both of them, correct?
I know who they are, yes, sir.
Or know who they are. When Trooper Tully told you that the vehicle was en route and could not provide you a photograph at, let's call it 5:50 p.m., did he tell you that the vehicle had actually been secured at Canton PD about a mile and a half away at 5:35 p.m.?
No, he did not say that, sir.
Did you know through any other means that that vehicle was just a mile and a half away at 5:35 p.m. before you ever found the first piece of taillight? Did you know that?
I did not know what time it arrived, sir.
Thank you.
Do you know what time Trooper Tully told you he did not have a photograph?
Why does he just start talking instead of being asked, do you want to redirect, Mr. Brennan?
Because
He
he's
just
a
starts
douche.
talking.
It was sometime after we found the first piece, sir. So sometime after 5:45, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right, Lieutenant, you are all set, sir.
Here we approach.
Okay.
Woohoo!
Come on up, please.
Are we going
Be a
home?
little ahead of schedule, which may just mean down the road a little bit, we'll be back on track. But because we're on track a little ahead of schedule right now, we're done for today. So we'll let you leave for today with those same cautions. Please do not discuss this. Would like you to.
Please be seated.
All right, so council, since we have ended a little bit early today, I would like you to go through those exhibits that Mr. McDermott brought to your attention at sidebar and make sure all the redactions are appropriate so we can at least square away that issue. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
That was a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. Well, today has been informative.
This is how you test the weather in Canton.
Oh no. I shouldn't laugh so so much at that, but did you have a heart rate monitor on your watch? Because I'm wondering what your heart rate was doing when we were doing the
I am
Gallagher
at
testimony.
I'm at a 70 heartbeats per minute because I'm checked out. This is so stupid that I can't even get. I forgot how stupid it was. I watched
We did forget.
Yeah, because we watched this entire trial last year. And then we are sitting here thinking, I can't be that bad this time. They must have straightened out. And then we just shift the timeline. Last time we shifted it 24 minutes between opening and closing. This time we are moving it back up again, even though you asked Trooper Garino about when she must have been at the house to connect to the Wi-Fi, but never really got an answer because I didn't check it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be up to 300, was it feet or yards? I'll have to look at my notes. But if she was using the bigger gigawatts, then it was further.
5 gigahertz.
Look, I was told there was going to be no more math, and yet they continue to lie.
Yeah. See you, Stephen. Why did he sign up to do this case? Was it a paycheck, or did he think he could win it?
I think part of it, so honestly, I think he wants the feather in his cap of beating Jackson. They're very adversarial, and maybe Yannetti, but if he can make these two big shot defense attorneys, lose, I think that's what motivates him more than anything.
Yeah, but again, maybe it's the DA job. I don't know, but at this point, if you have a reasonable jury, we're 10 days into a murder trial where we haven't heard about the murder yet. We have heard it couldn't have been Jen. Brian Albert didn't hinder the investigation. I know every cop, but I don't know any cops. I have no friends, but we are close. I chuck kids at dead people's houses. I ride around town and lie about it after. I lied to a grand jury.
I lied to feds.
I lied to the feds. I heard her say it. No, he didn't hear her say it. I told him she said it. I do have a friend now, well, an acquaintance, even though those bikini pictures, I don't have
She
many
not
bikini
only
pictures.
said it, she said it not one time, not 2 times, not 3 times, but actually 4 times.
I
And
told
the
the
police
cops.
did nada. They were like, "We've got 8 hours. It's snowing. We 5150'd her. She's good. We're just gonna let it go."
I take notes on my gloves, but I lost them. Why would you take notes on your gloves in a blizzard? Because your gloves would be really wet.
You would think. Also,
If my hand was wet, I couldn't do this.
also, what is it with these highly trained Navy SEALs of Massachusetts all having to, I don't know, shovel their driveway in case of tactical reasons? If you're on call, wouldn't you keep your driveway shoveled because
You would think
you're
so.
the
You're on
best of
call?
the best of the bestest?
Especially if you know you're about to get 2 feet of snow, you would shovel
Yeah.
it multiple times through that so that you didn't have to shovel 2 feet at
Also,
once.
how did they drive their cruisers in the snow? Because we have learned that cruisers cannot withstand 3.9 inches of snow. How did the hell did they get there in 22 bajillion inches of snow?
But again, you also have this, well, we get 4 to 5 feet of snow deposited at our driveway. My mom and dad had a very long driveway, and it ran out into a main road. As I told a story before, one of the A roads in my town. They would get a lot of snow deposited. Do you know what we did every year? Every time there was a heavy snowfall, I went over so my dad didn't have to do it, and I helped him shovel, and I shoveled the entire driveway, and then I cleaned off the area or the neighbors, because there was 2 other neighbors that led out to that road. So we would start, and then we will just remove all of that and throw it in a neighbor's yard so it could be in there so it wouldn't get shoveled up again. Well, he had a cement yard, so we could just throw it there. He was out there shoveling with us. But that was
that's good.
standard operating procedure. Every time we were getting a heavy snowfall, I would go there. I would do this. I would go and talk to the neighbors because we would all be doing it at roughly the same time so we could clear it out and then get out on the road. Yes, there could be a plow coming through again, but if you do it after the first really big one, you don't have to remove 4 feet of snow. You might have to just shovel, or you can punch through it. And all of these are driving 4-wheel drive vehicles, and they can't punch through snow. Why would it take 45 minutes to clean a driveway? It's
not even their vehicles. They're state vehicles. You don't even have to pay for it if it gets damaged. Just drive through the damn snowdrift, y'all.
yeah.
Valhalla, we are getting a rental and going
I'm
dune
saying.
buggying.
Yeah, you scoop the end of the driveway. You had to stay on top of it for when the plows come by. Are they dumb in Massachusetts? Again, Massachusetts is a northern state. They get snow almost every year. None of these troopers...
Definitely every year. Definitely.
Yeah.
Not almost. Definitely.
And none of these troopers saw snow for the first time. So
First time they've
everyone
ever
just
investigated in
lost...
snow.
But everyone lost their mind and said, what do you do when it snows? I'm on call, but I can't do anything to prepare to get out of my driveway. I can't do anything to make sure if I get called that I can go and pretty fast. So I just have to remove maybe 2-3 inches, 2-3 feet down by the curb. No, I'll just let everything snow over. I don't know.
I don't know. My brain is like, are we done yet? Because I'm done. I have been done. I have pulled a Bev today. I'm like,
Yeah. Bigger flurries are hard for cops. Criminals they can beat, but not the snowflakes.
thank you. That was hilarious.
Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with these people, but I'm just... And I love that all the aunties are now, oh, look, she did a butt dial. Yeah, idiots. Did you notice what happened with that butt dial? It connected to voicemail. Do you know what didn't happen? The 7 times Jen did it, it connected to voicemail.
Didn't go to voicemail.
And then there's this, what's his name? Dan Peltro something, idiot, who tries to be Turtle Boy. And he's like, well, it sounded like the audio, which they actually had enhanced compared to last year. It sounded like she was mixing a drink. Oh, great. So your BAC level doesn't match up? Because if you're saying she mixed a drink, maybe the jury heard that and thought, oh, she's mixing a drink and is really angry. Yeah, she was drinking back at the home, so the BAC wouldn't match. They are so stupid, they can't even keep their own story straight.
No, it's just just maddening because they didn't even come up with a better case. That is what pisses me off. Is they didn't even come with a better case. They didn't even take the time to say, hey, maybe I'll trim some of this. Maybe I'll put these witnesses in an order that makes sense. No, now it is like they are being deliberately more confusing. And as someone who's trying to write notes, who's trying to keep up with this, I can tell you that the jury probably goes home and just wants to scream into a pillow every night.
Yeah, especially because you can't go home and do what we do. We sit here and talk about it and can entertain each other. I've been looking at walking pads on my other screen because I just lost it with this guy. I was just, stop being stupid. And you're sitting here thinking, well, you have to listen to these absolutely boring people talking about some. I'm not sure how good the weather guy was this morning. I think for us who know it, he was really good for the defense, but I'm not 100% sure that the jury will catch it. And they can't go home and rewatch it because we can talk about it and say, was it 1.8 inches of snow or was it? Yeah.
Yeah. And chat is great. They're like, it was 1.2563.
Yeah.
I'm like, thank you.
Yeah,
I love
but
you,
that's
chat.
that's why it's fun to watch trials together, because you can sit here and then you have Steven say, no, last year was they said 541. Oh yeah, that's right. And you have all of these inputs, so you have to think about it. But imagine you have to sit.
Well, and not only that, but Bev never starts on time. There's always these sidebars that if you're not a trial nerd, you have no idea why they're getting like, get it together, Bev. So I'm pissed off at everyone at this point for not being able to, have everything. Like, we've been doing this for 3 weeks and you can't start trial on time. You can't come back on time. And then we're having a bunch of breaks when I thought you guys figured all this out. We've had how many half days so you could,
We
smooth
only
and
have 2.
streamline this.
We only have 2 half days, because we're wishing for half days every day because we get so fucking tired of listening to Brennan.
It's
So-
the morning being a marathon. It feels like such a longer day because it's like 8 hours in the morning and then like a little turdlet at the end of the day.
Can I just say, I went to court today, and it's a case. The last time I was doing it was June 11th last year. I had my notes. We had the notes from that the judge took during the trial, and I read up on it, and it was fine. I had the notes, but that's because we had the first who talk is the accused, then the accuser, and then the witness who was there. So I could just read it. Oh yeah, this is the testimony. These people have to. This is like watching Lord of the Rings, and it's almost as long as Lord of the Rings. This will only be 12 weeks, so maybe half the length of Lord of the Rings special unified director's fan cut.
Better stop
Weirdos.
disparaging. Stop disparaging the greatest
Baker, we're already
fantasy movie of all
making you
time.
watch Dark Crystal. Don't make us make you watch the hiking video.
But so there's one time of the year it snows. I get out everywhere with my 4x4, but in Canton where it snows all the time, they're petrified. Got it. Yeah, Volstorm. That's the stupidest thing in the world. Because as I said, if it hadn't been for those faulty windshield wiper blades, no one would have called that a blizzard. But they use it to try and put in your mind. So actually, if the jury picked up what the weatherman was putting down, which is kittens to measure how tall the snow, how deep the snow was. How deep is your snow? How deep is your snow? It's roughly a kitten tall.
How deep is your love?
But it's again, it's sleight of hand all the time, and you have this story. Then you have an EMT. Then you have a weather guy. Then you have Jen. Then you have some chick who might have been getting some Colombian snow in her brother's car. Then you have Carrie. Then you have a police officer. Then you have a guy who once saw snow in Colombia in a different matter. Then you have a childhood friend of Brennan who said, yeah, we hated him back in school as well. You have to keep track at more side stories than in Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings is one of the worst movies ever made, because
God damn it, Baker.
it could have been 90 minutes long and just chuck it through and it would have been a great movie. But no, let's see people walking. Oh, I'm going to go through a mountain and meet some
It's a hero's
ghosts.
journey, Baker. They have to go somewhere. Otherwise, it's Snow White. And
They
we
don't
want
have
that
to do it
either.
all the time and talk about, I like me some taters.
Shut up. Those are my people. The Irish are a proud people and we like potatoes. Damn it.
Thank you, Micah. I love
Stop
that
it.
everyone is, oh, it's such a great movie. Why? Well, it's beautiful. Can't deny that. But it's not
I
true
have
to
two
the
words
books.
for you. Viggo Morrison. With a sword.
Mortensen, because he's
Whatever.
Danish.
He's not shirtless, which is a problem. But I mean, I have an imagination. I can
Again,
work.
You
dancing.
shall not pass.
which is such a stupid thing. It's just you're
What was
a
he
magic
supposed to
user.
say?
I played Dungeons and Dragons. Chuck a fireball in the face of that guy and get out of there. No, I'll ruin the bridge and kill myself so I can come back as Gandalf the
Look,
White.
if you had to deal with the annoying hobbits who just talked about potatoes, you'd do a, I'm going to do a heroic last stand, like, Billy from Predator. So, sir, keep your
Billy did
stories
a
straight.
way better last stand than Gandalf.
Well, I
He-
mean,
Well, he lasted as long as I do in bed.
Potatoes.
What a waste of film and time. I love that
Oh my God. Oh my
the
God.
Lotrat hate is real. I did a book report about it, and I thought I was really clever and said, well, it's actually a tale about the First World War that he tried to use to make a history about England's because
Wasn't it
you
before
have the
too?
fighting and the evil forces coming in from the east, which was the Germans. Sorry, Serenity. Later, it would probably have been the Ruskies, but this is and these orcs that was born in the mud was from the battlefields in Flanders and all of that. Really big, comprehensive story. And sadly, it was to my we call it Danish, where we had literature and everything. That our Danish class. And he's the guy who called me a Nazi. So he said, "Yeah, you would like it to be that." Actually, he fought. I think he was at Verdun, even, which is one of the baddest battles. And there are evidence that he wrote it as part as to get over the First World War. But he gave me a failing grade. I
Son
wrote
of a
16 pages about Lord of the Rings.
that's
F.U.
why you
Tolkien.
hate it. Don't blame a movie. You're just pissed off you got a bad grade.
No, I'm pissed off. It's such a long movie. Movies should be any movie over 90 minutes should be instantly chucked into the sun.
What? That's the
No
silliest
great-
thing I've ever heard.
No great movie has lasted more than 90 minutes except
How long?
Shawshank
is-
Redemption.
Braveheart.
Braveheart.
Tombstone.
Hey, Scottish people in chat, how do you think about Braveheart as your
Great movie.
national hero banging a
I'm
child?
not a fan of
Great movie.
Worst
Great
movie ever. The Passion of the Christ is more historically accurate than Braveheart.
I didn't get that they were castrating him at the end, so I was like, why is he screaming? They haven't even started cutting his head off, and my mom's like, they're cutting something else off. And I was like, what, his toes? Like, it was whomp right over Mo's head.
But I'll just say Top Gun isn't Top Gun 1 is 90 minutes long. Dances with Wolves. Oh,
That's a
Kevin
great
Hot
movie.
Costner.
Shots Part 2. The best movie ever, changed my mind.
I'm just Dances with Wolves. Let's be honest. You're just looking at the beautiful scenery because that story is boring.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
sir. Top Gun runs 109 minutes.
Well, that's the editor's cut.
In Denmark, did they take out the really
too.
hetero life partner volleyball scene?
I
That's why he thinks it's 90 minutes.
I actually watched back in the day. I watched a lot of movie in German TV because we didn't get the new movies in Danish. We had a monopoly, state-owned television. It's the best.
Ooh.
So when we saw movies, finally saw them like 2 years later on Danish television, we're like, oh, that wasn't in the Germans because they cut out all the bad stuff. So, hey, Bennett, let off some steam. That was cut. My dad wants his coffee to taste better. Any wise suggestions? Put a little bit
Don't
of
drink
milk into it
coffee.
and then grow up and be a man. Tell that Baker sent you.
Baileys?
Drink
Or
Monster
Bailey's.
Energy
Bailey's
drinks
could also
instead.
be the solution.
Bailey's is a good solution, actually.
That being said, Coke Zero is awesome.
That's not coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
Hey!
What's up, Dr. Ketchup? How we doing, brother?
Been a second.
For real.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah,
I haven't
well,
seen you
I
in a
think
while.
been a little bit on and
Busy?
off. Good to see you. You would
Hell
never
yeah.
say that to your dad. Well, I can recommend, because I know Jamie, she used a mix of blueberry creamer, waffle tasting creamer, and butterscotch creamer, and Canadian syrup creamer, and I don't think she even put coffee in there, but there's a lot of creamer.
Blueberry maple syrup, Canadian.
Oh, it's the Jamie. I missed Kimmy's newest hot take. Oh my, I can't end the stream if Kimmy's here. Oh,
Kimmy's got a hot take.
Kimmy with the hottest takes in town.
I bet it's going to be great. I bet it's going to make so much sense.
I can't
It
find
is.
it.
I need her to bring wisdom into my life.
Yeah, it's probably
I
not going to be
crave
that.
it.
I
can't
bet it's
see
going to
it.
be great.
Can't find it in chat.
Ooh, I found it. Dr. Lapasoda is from Rhode Island. Check out how she handled the station fire. She definitely needs help.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that a hot take?
Well, it's got a fire in it, so it's not cold.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. Evaporated milk full of vitamin D and no chemicals. But if it's evaporated, there's no milk.
No, it's simply
So
got
how
a
do you get
lower
that?
liquid.
Yeah, I think I got some evaporated milk.
That's it.
Oh, that's the ME that the defense hired. Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing that because they didn't really say anything. Hold on, that's fighting worse. The station nightclub fire was an unprecedented tragedy where 100 people died. Oh my God. I think there's a lot of spelling gone wrong in that one.
I think it's fighting.
I can't tell. I'm a terrible speller, so I'm like, it looks good to me, but then again, words are tricky.
The station fire was that great white concert where the venue went up in flames from the pyro.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
What's that got to do with Dr. Lapasoda?
I don't know.
I'm confused.
Well, it's Kimmy.
Well, that's good. I mean,
there might be a connection there. I don't know. I have no idea.
Was it Michael Lapasoda?
well,
I thought it was a chick.
is he the medical examiner? Maybe he's going to be able to explain more the
he's a lab
injuries.
leader. No, that's a pathologist.
Well, then I don't know who this man is.
I don't know. She was the medical examiner at the time. Was that where Dimebag Darrell died?
Is this
No, he was pew-pewed.
Is it the guy with the glasses?
No, it's a female.
That's what I thought. But I don't see a.
Nothing pops up when I Google it. I get Michael Lapasoda.
Elizabeth Lapasoda, MD, pathologist in Providence, Rhode Island, but I can't find like a picture of her.
She is Dr. Elizabeth Lapasoda, a native of Washington, D.C., completed her pre-med at Bucknell in Lewisburg, PA. Cum laude with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. Maryland School of Medicine, Baltimore. Doctor of Medicine in 1979. Internship and residency in anatomic pathology at Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. St. Louis University. And she's a
Brown University.
That doesn't sound like this one because this one is in Maybe it is. She's a diplomat of the American Board of Pathology with certification in anatomic and forensic pathology. She has publications. Smoking marijuana, is it safe for the heart? Fighting the war on drugs, what weapons for analyze and detection? There's a lot of weed stuff in this one.
It sounds like my kind of medical examiner.
Wow, her
Understanding the
address
method and
posted all over the
results from
place.
an analysis of fentanyl in postmortem blood using biocompatible solid phase microextraction. I hope she talks about that. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not sure how we got here anymore. Thanks, Kimmy.
I have, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Kimmy, because I need more unexplained thoughts in my head as to why I got here and why I'm thinking about this.
I don't know. I don't know.
So,
Maybe it's
on the
interesting. Maybe
whole,
it's not.
guys,
Maybe it's Maybelline.
my brain is like, should I dress up as a cat tomorrow? That is literally what is going legitimately through my head. A weather cat tomorrow, just as a costume, because
Have you
Look-
considered dressing up with cat ears, a kiddie pool, and say, hey, I know we gave for the goats yesterday, but today I'll write your name on my arm for only $20 super chats. $20 super chats.
hey,
You
I
can
got
get
6 kids to put through college. There is no pride in this game.
Time to track this kitty.
And just think, because my boobs have experienced gravity, I have way more writing space. Like, hey, there's room for everyone. In the super chat, you might not get top billing, but you'll be on the marquee.
Eileen votes for Weather Cat. Pretty please.
I think we can make it happen.
Oh, Jesus.
If you grab the pan out of the hot oven with an oven mitt, then a minute later accidentally grab that pan with your bare hand, how slow and French would you be? No, you
Me.
It
just
happens.
have forgot, because I
It
do it all the time.
Yeah, it happens. You go to grab something out of the oven and then you go to slice into it, just out of reaction, grab the side of the pan. Yeah, it gets me every once in a while.
Yep. Yeah.
Son of
I-
Ah.
I was helping at the birthday I was at. I was helping in the kitchen, and they had ordered food so we had to heat it, and so of course the baker helped a bit. And I was cutting some bread, and I still believe I'm a baker, even though it's been a long time. So I have gotten penile skin on my fingers again. So I was grabbing the bread and just starting. I was like, "Oh, that's really stupid. Maybe get something." No, I'll handle it. And I had to cut up 6 loaves that just came out of a 200-degree hot oven. I had a little bit of a slight reddening on my fingertips after, because I'm not that smart.
Oh,
I used to do it.
baker.
I can do it still.
I've still got hot hands. You don't have hot hands? I was never even a baker and I've got hot hands.
Well, some ladies say
ladies.
my
Hot
fingers
hands.
make them hot. So
Hot
I don't
hands
know what that
Valhalla.
Hey, you guys, it's Mo from Mo in the Deep End. And if you wanted to start your mornings off right, mornings with Mo at 8 a.m. Eastern. I think it's just Eastern time right now. I can't remember if we're on the hell that is daylight savings time. Look, I was told there wasn't going to be any more math, and yet they continue to bring math on this stupid effing trial. So I'm having a little of a moment here, but I usually have news and it happens in the morning. Just put on the notifications and sub, and it'll probably tell you some days.
I'm not sure he meant penile skin, y'all. I'm not sure he did. I don't know what he did mean, but I don't think it was penile skin. That being said, come check out the goats. We've got a nursery stall in the barn with a goat cam on there. Come check it out. Otherwise, we'll be doing this and working on a Lego date, I think. I think we have the date, but I'm not 100%, so I don't want to announce it yet. But we got another Lego coming up. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow.
You're muted.
It is what we call it in Danish bakery terms, when you have that, when you haven't burned your fingertips enough so you can just grab hot things. We do call it that you have penis skin on your fingers. Even if you're a lady.
Jen! Misreads.
Yes.
Jen!
Get cut and dry. Pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right? Pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?
Objection.
Pretty simple. Just pin it on the girl, right?